You've probably seen those movies about medieval times, dirty peasants, sure, but the sun still shines, crops still grow, people still manage. Here's what they don't show you. What if the sun just stopped? Not completely, but what if one morning you woke up and the sun was blue? What if it barely cast enough light to see your hand in front of your face? What if this lasted not for a day or a week, but for 18 months? Most people think living in medieval times was hard. They have no idea. In the year 536 CE, something happened that was so catastrophic, so beyond comprehension, that historians now call it the worst year to be alive in human history. A mysterious fog rolled across Europe, the Middle East and parts of Asia, blocking the sun for a year and a half. Not a cloud, not a storm, a fog that never lifted, turning day into a permanent eerie twilight. And the worst part? Nobody knew why. Nobody knew when it would end. And absolutely nobody was prepared for what came next. So yeah, if these stories help you sleep, like or subscribe would be cool. Also, drop where you're listening from and the time. I check the comments, and it's crazy seeing people from like Australia and Norway on the same video. Alright, tonight it's the year 536 CE, but before we go anywhere, get cozy. Like, actually cozy. Pillows good? Blanket situation handled? Perfect. Trust me on this one. So, congratulations. You just woke up in the Byzantine Empire, March of the year 536. You're lying on a straw mattress, not like your memory foam back home. This thing is basically a sack stuffed with whatever plants your family could gather last autumn. It crinkles when you move, pokes you in weird places, and it's definitely home to a few insects that you've learned to ignore. You can already tell something's wrong. Usually, dawn brings a warm glow through the wooden shutters of your one-room house, but today it's different. The rooster crowed, but the light hasn't followed. Maybe it's just cloudy. You've seen storms before. Your father is already by the door, peering outside with a confused look on his face. Your mother is stoking the small fire in the center of the room, the smoke escaping through a hole in the thatched roof. "What is it?" your mother asks, noticing your father's expression. He shakes his head. "Come look." You follow them outside, and that's when you see it. The sky is wrong. It's morning, but it looks like late dusk, and the sun, what you can see of it through the haze, is blue. Not yellow, not orange. Blue. And dim, like a full moon rather than the sun. "Is it an eclipse?" you ask. Your father shakes his head again. Eclipses don't last this long, and the sun wouldn't be blue. Your family isn't the only one outside now. The whole village is emerging from their homes, faces turned upward, expressions mixed between awe and terror. Nobody has seen anything like this before. Old Elena, the oldest woman in the village, hobbles forward with her walking stick. She's at least 60, ancient by the standards of your time. She survived famines, wars, and 3 husbands. "It's the end times," she announces dramatically, just like the prophets foretold, darkness upon the land. "Oh, shut up, Elena," your father says, which is pretty bold considering how everyone respects her wisdom. "You said the same thing when that 2-headed calf was born 5 years ago. And have things gotten better since then?" she shoots back. "Emperor raising taxes, Goths and Vandals causing trouble everywhere, and now this." She gestures toward the dim blue sun. "Mark my words." You know your father is worried though, despite his brave face. Your family, like most others in this time, are farmers. You grow barley, some vegetables, keep chickens and a goat. You're utterly dependent on the weather, on the sun. As a child of about 10, your job is to help with the animals and collect eggs. You've already noticed the chickens are confused. They went back into their coop after coming out briefly. Animals can sense when things aren't right. "What does it mean?" you ask your father, tugging at his rough homespun tunic. "I don't know," he admits, which scares you more than anything else. Your father always knows what to do, but we should get to work anyway. The fields won't plough themselves. But even as he says it, you can feel how cold it is. Not winter cold, but certainly not the spring warmth you'd expect in March. Your breath forms small clouds in the air. "It's freezing," your mother says, wrapping her shawl tighter. "How can it be this cold? Yesterday was warm." Your family goes about the morning chores, but everything feels off. The goat is agitated, the chickens won't leave their coop, and there's an eerie quiet over the village. No birds singing. Even the insects seem silent. By midday, or what should be midday, the light hasn't improved. If anything, it's dimmer. The blue sun hangs in the sky like a ghost, providing barely enough light to see clearly. And here's the strangest part. You notice you're not casting a shadow, neither is anyone else. "Look," you say, pointing to the ground. "No shadows." Your father stops his work and stares at the ground. It's true, the sun is so weak that it casts no shadows at all. In your entire life, you've never seen such a thing. Word comes from a traveller passing through that it's the same in Constantinople, the great city about 2 days' journey from your village. The Emperor Justinian himself ordered lanterns lit throughout the palace, even during the day. Some say it's a punishment from God for the emperor's wars. Others whisper it's the work of Persian mages casting spells against the Byzantine Empire. That night, your family gathers close around the fire. It's colder than it should be, and you pile on extra blankets. Your mother has been quieter than usual all day, and now she speaks what's on everyone's mind. What if the sun doesn't come back? What happens to the crops? Your father doesn't answer right away. Finally, he says, "The sun will come back. It has to." But you can hear the doubt in his voice. 3 days later, nothing has changed. The blue sun, the dim light, the unseasonable cold. It's all the same. People in the village are starting to panic a little. Some are talking about omens and signs. 2 families loaded up their carts and left, heading south where they heard the darkness isn't as bad. Your father meets with other village men near the well. You sneak close enough to listen. "My wheat hasn't grown at all," says Nikolaos, who has the largest farm in the village. "Not a finger's width in 3 days. It's like it's frozen in time. Same with my barley," another farmer adds. "And have you noticed? No insects on the plants either." "We should send someone to the city," your father suggests. "Find out what the officials know." "They won't tell us peasants anything," Nikolaos scoffs. "Besides, Stephanos passed through yesterday coming from there. Says it's the same in Constantinople. People lighting lamps at midday, priests leading prayers in the streets. I heard a merchant talking about other places." A quiet voice adds. "It's Matthias, who rarely speaks at these gatherings. Said it's like this everywhere, all the way to Persia." The men fall silent, digesting this information. If it's everywhere, there's nowhere to flee to, nowhere to escape, whatever this is. Later that night, you hear your parents talking in hushed voices after they think you're asleep. "We should count what food we have stored," your mother says. "If the crops don't grow, they'll grow," your father insists. "The sun will come back." "But what if it doesn't? Not in time? The grain from last harvest won't last past summer, even if we're careful. Then we'll find other food, fish from the river, game in the forest. Everyone will be hunting and fishing. There won't be enough." You pull your blanket tighter around you, trying not to listen, but unable to stop. You've never heard your parents sound so worried before. A week passes and the unnatural twilight continues. You've gotten somewhat used to the dim blue light, but the cold is getting worse. Frost appears on the ground each morning now. In March, when it should be warming up, the crops in the field show no signs of growth. Some plants are starting to wither. Your father has begun setting traps in the forest, something he usually only does in winter when food is scarce. Your mother is stretching the grain stores, mixing ground acorns into the bread to make it last longer. It tastes bitter, but no one complains. In the village, the mood has darkened along with the sky. Arguments break out over small things. Two men came to blows over whose turn it was at the grinding stone. The headman had to step in. 10 days after the darkness began, a group of soldiers passes through the village. They're Byzantine troops, servants of Emperor Justinian, heading west. Their armour gleams dully in the strange light, and their faces look grim. Your father and some other men approach them cautiously. Relations between peasants and soldiers are always tense. They're known to take taxes in the form of food and supplies. "What news from the capital?" your father asks the leader, a gruff man with a scar running down his cheek. "Same as here," the soldier replies, glancing up at the dim blue sun. "Emperor's got the scholars trying to figure it out. Some say it's ash from a great fire mountain in the north. Others say it's the breath of a dragon." He shrugs. "All I know is we're still expected to fight the Goths in Italy. Darkness or no. And the crops?" someone asks. "In Constantinople?" "Nothing's growing," the soldier says bluntly. "Food prices are already 10 times normal. Emperor's ordered grain ships from Egypt, but..." He doesn't finish the thought. Everyone knows what happens in cities when food runs out. After the soldiers leave, taking some of the village's precious food with them as imperial tax, the headman calls everyone together. "We need to be smart," he tells the gathered villagers. "If the crops don't grow, we'll need to rely on what we have stored. From now on, we ration everything, and we send parties to the forest daily for anything edible. Mushrooms, berries, game, anything." "What about the city?" someone calls out. "Should we go there?" The headman shakes his head. "Cities will be the first to starve. Better to be here where we at least have land and forest." As people disperse, you notice how they're careful not to make eye contact with neighbours. Everyone is already thinking about their own family's supplies, mentally calculating how long they can last. That night, you awaken to the sound of a commotion outside. Your father grabs his pitchfork and goes to the door. Your mother holds you back. Through the crack in the door, you see flickering torchlight and hear angry voices. Someone has broken into the village storehouse where seed grain is kept. The headman and several others have caught the thief. It's Demetri, whose family arrived in the village only last year. "My children are hungry," he's shouting as they hold him. "What was I supposed to do?" "We're all going to be hungry," the headman says grimly, "but if we eat the seed grain now, we'll have nothing to plant when the sun returns." "If it returns," Demetri spits, "my family can't wait for if. The punishment for stealing seed grain is severe. In normal times, Demetri might be banished or worse, but these aren't normal times. 3 days in the stocks," the headman pronounces, "and your family's rations cut for a week." It seems both harsh and lenient at the same time. Harsh because in this cold, 3 days outside could mean death. Lenient because in normal times the punishment would be much worse. As the days turn into weeks, the strange twilight becomes the new normal. Your eyes have adapted to seeing in the dim blue light, but the cold, that's getting worse. It's now April, when flowers should be blooming and the air should be warm, but instead there's frost every morning. The crops in the fields are stunted or dying. Your family's food stores are running low and you've all lost weight. Your mother has been skipping meals, claiming she's not hungry, but you know she's giving her share to you. The forest has provided some food, mushrooms, early berries, a few rabbits from your father's traps, but not enough. News trickles in from travelers. It's the same everywhere. From Hispania to Persia, the sun is dimmed. Crops are failing. The Byzantine Empire, already stretched thin by Emperor Justinian's wars to reconquer the western territories, is struggling to feed its people. One morning, about a month after the darkness began, you wake to find your father already gone. Your mother says he's joined a group of men from the village on a hunting expedition deeper into the forest than they usually go. They'll be gone for several days. While he's away, you take on more responsibilities. You check the small vegetable garden daily, willing the plants to grow in the cold twilight. You collect the few eggs the confused chickens still lay. You help your mother search the forest edge for anything edible. On the third day after your father left, you're collecting firewood near the edge of the forest when you hear a sound. Looking up, you see a deer, a young doe, watching you cautiously from between the trees. In normal times, this would be extraordinary luck. Deer usually stay deep in the forest, away from humans. But these aren't normal times. The deer looks thin, its ribs visible even from where you stand. The cold and lack of plant growth is affecting all creatures. You freeze, barely daring to breathe. You have no weapon, nothing to capture this potential feast. The deer stares at you for a long moment, then silently turns and disappears into the forest. When you tell your mother later, she sighs. The animals are struggling too. Everything is. That night, lying on your straw mattress, you stare up at the thatched roof of your home and wonder what will happen next. Will the sun ever return to normal? Will the crops grow again? Or is this the new world, cold, dim, and hungry? Your father returns the next day with the hunting party. They look exhausted and disheartened. Between the 5 of them, they've managed to catch only 1 boar and a few squirrels, hardly worth the 4 days they spent hunting. The forest is empty, your father tells your mother when they think you can't hear. The animals are either hiding or dead, and we weren't the only ones hunting. We saw people from other villages, even some who looked like they'd come from the city. What are we going to do? Your mother asks, fear evident in her voice. Your father is silent for a long moment. We might have to go to Constantinople, he finally says. At least the emperor will have food. He won't let the capital starve, even if the rest of the empire does. The idea of leaving your home is terrifying. You've never been further than the nearby market town. Constantinople is a day's journey away, a place you've only heard about in stories. A great city with walls higher than the tallest trees, with the magnificent Hagia Sophia church, with more people than you can imagine. But the prospect of food, real food, not just thin soup and bitter acorn bread, is tempting. The next day, the headman calls another village meeting. The news isn't good. The imperial tax collectors are expected soon, and they'll demand their usual share of the village's production, darkness or no. We barely have enough for ourselves, someone protests. How can we give anything to the emperor? We have no choice, the headman says wearily. If we refuse, they'll take it by force and punish us besides. Then what do? Your father asks. Wait here to starve? The headman has no answer. No one does. 2 days later, as the unnatural twilight continues into its 6th week, your family makes a decision. Like many others in the village, you'll go to Constantinople. The city will be dangerous, especially now, but staying means certain starvation when winter comes. You pack what little you can carry, some clothing, your mother's prized bronze cooking pot, a small sack of precious grain, a knife. Your father trades your goat to Nikolaos for a small cart that you'll pull yourselves since you have no horse or ox. The morning of your departure, you take a last look at the home you've known all your life. The dimness hasn't improved. If anything, the haze seems thicker, the blue sun fainter. The fields that should be green with growing crops are brown and withered. As your family sets off down the road toward Constantinople, joining a stream of other desperate people, all heading for the city, you wonder what will happen next in this darkened world. You've never known real hunger before, or real fear, but looking at the faces around you, gaunt, determined, frightened, you realise this is just the beginning. The darkness that fell in March of 536 CE would last for 18 months, and what came after would be even worse. The road to Constantinople is packed with people, not just from your village, but from every farm and settlement for miles around. Everyone has the same hollow-cheeked look, the same desperate hope that the great city might offer salvation from the endless twilight that swallowed the world. Your family's small cart creaks as you help your father pull it over the rutted road. Inside are your few possessions and your mother, who twisted her ankle on the first day of travel. The going is slow. "Look at them all," your father mutters, nodding toward the stream of humanity trudging toward the city. "The Emperor's going to have his hands full, if he even lets us in," says a man walking nearby, overhearing. "I heard they're turning people away at the gates." Your father frowns. "They can't turn everyone away." The man just shrugs. "City's got to feed who it's got already." The thought sends a chill through you that has nothing to do with the unseasonable cold. What if you make this journey only to be turned away? As night falls, though it's hard to tell the difference between day and night anymore, your family joins others making camp by the roadside. Small fires flicker in the gloom, casting more light than the hidden sun did all day. The mood is subdued. No one has much food to share, and those who do guard it jealously. Your mother winces as she examines her swollen ankle by firelight. "It's not getting better," your father says quietly. "I can walk tomorrow," she insists, though you can see the pain in her eyes. An old woman from another village hobbles over to your fire. "Got yourself a bad twist there," she says, gesturing to your mother's ankle. Without waiting for an invitation, she sits down next to her. "I'm fine," your mother says stiffly. "Course you are," the old woman says with a snort. "And I'm the Empress Theodora." She reaches into a pouch at her waist and pulls out some leaves. "Willow bark, chew it. Tastes like horse piss, but it'll help with the pain." Your mother hesitates, then takes the offering with a nod of thanks. "Been on the road 3 days," the old woman continues, settling herself more comfortably. "Left when my son's family did. They've gone on ahead. Younger legs move faster." She looks around at the makeshift camp, the dozens of small fires dotting the darkness. "Never seen anything like this, not in 70 years of living." "The darkness, you mean?" your father asks. "All of it. The cold, the dying crops." She shakes her head. "Lived through 2 famines in my time. This feels worse. At least then we knew what was happening. This," she gestures toward the dim sky, "this ain't natural." In the morning, if you can call it morning when the sky merely shifts from black to a deep blue twilight, your family continues toward Constantinople. Your mother insists on walking despite her ankle, though she leans heavily on a stick. The old woman from last night, who introduced herself as Agatha, joins your small group. "Safety in numbers," she says, though you suspect she's just lonely. By midday, the great walls of Constantinople come into view. Even in the dim light, they're an awesome sight. Massive stone barriers stretching across the horizon, taller than anything you've ever seen. Above them rise domes and spires, the tops of palaces and churches. But something's wrong. The road leading to the main gate is completely jammed with people, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, and the gate itself is closed, with armoured soldiers standing guard before it. That doesn't look good, your father says, stating the obvious. As you get closer, you can hear shouting. The crowd is angry, demanding to be let in. The soldiers keep them back with spears and shields. Citizens of the Empire only, one soldier bellows through a metal helmet. By order of Emperor Justinian, show proof you're registered for the Annona or turn back. The Annona is the system of grain distribution for citizens of the capital. Your family, as rural farmers, has no such registration. What do we do now? Your mother asks, her face pale with pain and fear. Your father surveys the scene, thinking, we need another way in, he says finally. A smaller gate, maybe, or someone who can vouch for us. The harbour of Theodosius, Agatha pipes up. Everyone turns to look at her. My son works the docks there. If we can find him, he might help. It's a slim chance, but better than nothing. Your father nods, and your small group breaks away from the main road, circling west around the city walls toward the harbour. The detour adds hours to your journey. By the time you reach the harbour, the dim daylight is fading toward true night. The harbour is busy despite the late hour, with ships being frantically unloaded. Even in the gloom, you can see their grain ships, their cargo precious beyond measure in these dark times. Workers swarm over the vessels while soldiers oversee the operation, making sure none of the grain disappears. The dockside is chaotic, with people shouting, animals braying, and the constant creak of ropes and wood. How will we find your son in this? Your father asks Agatha. He's a foreman, name of Demetrios, she replies. Everyone knows him. Your father asks a few dock workers about Demetrios. Most ignore him or shake their heads, too busy to help. But finally, one points toward a large warehouse. Might be in there, tallying the new shipment. Your father thanks him with a small piece of bread, a valuable gift now. And your group heads toward the warehouse. Inside, it's surprisingly warm from the bodies of dozens of workers hauling sacks of grain. Oil lamps hang from posts, creating pools of yellow light in the gloom. Demetrios, your father calls. We're looking for Demetrios. A burly man with a short beard looks up from a table where he's making marks on a wax tablet. Who's asking? We brought your mother, your father says, gesturing to Agatha. The man's face changes instantly. Mother? He hurries over, embracing the old woman. What are you doing here? I told you to stay in the village. Village is dying, Agatha says simply. Everyone's leaving. Demetrios looks past her at your family, his expression wary. And these people helped me on the road. Good folks. He sighs, running a hand through his hair. Mother, the city is overflowing already. There's barely enough food even with the Emperor's Egyptian shipments. They've closed the gates to anyone without citizen rights. Please, your mother says, stepping forward. We have nowhere else to go. Our crops have failed. Everything's dying in this darkness. Demetrios looks at her, then at you, a child with hungry eyes, and his resolve visibly weakens. I can get you inside the walls, he says finally. Finding you a place to stay and food to eat, that'll be harder. We'll work, your father says quickly. Whatever jobs need doing. I'm strong and I know farming. Demetrios laughs, but there's no humour in it. Farming? In the city? With the sun gone? He shakes his head, but there's always work on the docks. Hard work, mind you, for little pay. Anything, your father says. We just need a chance. That night, your family sleeps in a corner of the warehouse on sacks of grain, the most comfortable bed you've had in weeks, despite the hard lumps. Demetrios brings you a small portion of fish stew, more flavour than you've tasted since the darkness began. Don't tell anyone I gave you this, he warns. Food riots started last week. People are desperate. In the morning, Demetrios leads your family through a small service gate in the walls. He's vouched for you as workers for the harbour, which gets you past the guards, though they look at you suspiciously. And then you're inside Constantinople, the greatest city in the world. Even cloaked in twilight, it takes your breath away. Buildings taller than trees line streets paved with actual stone. People of every description hurry past, not just farmers and labourers like in your village, but men in rich robes, women with painted faces, soldiers in gleaming armour, priests in flowing garments, and the noise after the quiet of your village, the constant din of voices, animals and commerce is overwhelming. But beneath the spectacle, you can see signs of the same fear that drove your family here. The faces of the city dwellers are drawn with hunger. Markets that should be bustling have half-empty stalls. Soldiers patrol everywhere, hands on their weapons. Outside a large building, hundreds of people line up for what you guess is a distribution of food. The emperor ordered the city granaries opened, Demetrios explains, following your gaze. Each citizen gets a ration. Not enough, but something. You're not citizens, so he leaves the implication hanging. We'll find a way, your father says, with more confidence than he probably feels. Demetrios leads you to the harbour district, a maze of narrow streets and crowded tenements near the water. The smell of fish and salt hangs in the air, mingling with less pleasant odours. He stops at a dilapidated building wedged between two warehouses. My friend Sophia runs this boarding house, he says. She might have space in the cellar. It's not much, but it's shelter. The cellar turns out to be little more than a stone room with a dirt floor, already occupied by two other families, but it's dry and safer than the roads outside the city. Your mother nearly weeps with relief when she can finally rest her injured ankle. "How much?" your father asks, already reaching for the small pouch where he keeps your family's few coins. "First week is covered," Demetrios says. "As a favour to my mother. After that, we'll see if I can find you work." Over the next few days, you settle into a new routine. Your father works on the docks from dawn until dusk, loading and unloading ships for a few copper coins and sometimes a portion of fish or damaged grain that would otherwise be thrown away. Your mother, once her ankle heals enough to walk, finds work washing clothes for a wealthy family near the Forum of Constantine. You're left to your own devices much of the time, a freedom both exciting and terrifying. The city is a dangerous place for a child alone, but also full of wonders. You quickly learn which market stalls might give a hungry child a crust of bread out of pity, which streets to avoid because of gangs, and how to make yourself useful enough that adults won't chase you away. One day, about 2 weeks after arriving in the city, you're helping an old baker stack his empty baskets when you notice a commotion near the forum. A crowd has gathered, listening to a man in elaborate robes speaking from the steps of a building. Curious, you edge closer. "A test from God," the man is saying, his voice carrying over the crowd. "The darkness has come because we have strayed from the true path. Emperor Justinian builds his grand churches while allowing heresy to flourish." Some in the crowd murmur agreement. Others look uncomfortable. "The sun hides its face because of our sins," the man continues. "Repent, give what you have to the church, and pray for salvation before it's too late." "That's Cosmos," says a voice beside you. You turn to see a boy about your age, skinny with dirt-smudged cheeks. He's been preaching doom since the darkness started. "Is he right?" you ask. "Is it because of sins?" The boy shrugs. "My dad says it's because of a fire mountain far away. He was a sailor before the ships stopped coming. Says he saw one once, spitting fire and smoke into the sky." A fire mountain sounds just as implausible as divine punishment, but you don't say so. "I'm Theo," the boy offers. "I'm from the country," you reply. "Just got here. Theo nods, like this explains everything. Lots of country people coming in. City folks don't like it, say there's not enough food already. As if to emphasize his point, a disturbance breaks out at the edge of the crowd. People are shouting, pushing. You stand on tiptoe to see what's happening. A cart has arrived carrying loaves of bread, likely headed for one of the city's food distribution centers. But people are swarming it, grabbing at the precious food. The driver cracks his whip, trying to keep them back. Soldiers are running toward the scene. "Come on," Theo says, tugging at your sleeve. "When there's trouble with food, you don't want to be nearby. Soldiers don't care who they hit." You follow him down a narrow side street, away from the commotion. Behind you, you can hear shouting and the sounds of fighting. "Happens all the time now," Theo says matter-of-factly. "My mum says if the darkness doesn't lift soon, the whole city will tear itself apart." As the weeks pass, summer arrives. Though you'd never know it from the temperature, it remains unseasonably cold, with frost appearing some mornings even in June. The blue sun continues to shed its weak light through the haze. If anything, the dimness seems to be getting worse. News from outside the city is grim. Crops are failing across the empire. Food grows more expensive by the day. Emperor Justinian has ordered more grain ships from Egypt and North Africa, but they can't feed everyone. The poor suffer first, as always. Your family's situation is precarious. The work on the docks is sporadic. Some days your father comes home with pay. Other days there are no ships to unload. Your mother's employers have cut her wages, claiming financial hardship. The small room you share with two other families feels smaller as tensions rise. One evening, your father returns from the docks with a small package wrapped in cloth. His face is tense but excited as he gathers your family in a corner of the cellar, away from the others. "Look," he whispers, unwrapping the bundle to reveal a handful of beans, some withered vegetables, and a small piece of salted fish. "From a ship that came in today, from the south. The captain said the darkness isn't as bad there." "We should go south then," your mother says immediately. Your father shakes his head. No ships taking passengers, and the roads... He doesn't need to finish. You've all heard the rumours about the roads. Bandits, desperate people, entire villages stripped bare by hungry travellers. "We plant these," he says instead, pointing to the beans. "I found a spot near the city wall, a little garden patch someone abandoned." "Plant?" Your mother looks sceptical. "In this darkness, in this cold?" "We have to try," your father insists. "We can't depend on dock work forever." The next day, you help your father in his secret garden, a small plot of earth in the shadow of the massive city walls. The ground is hard, resistant to the crude tools you've fashioned from scrap wood. But your father works with determination, turning the soil, creating neat rows. "Just like home," he says, trying to sound cheerful. "Except for the giant wall blocking what little sun there is." "Will they really grow?" you ask, looking doubtfully at the beans he's carefully placing in the earth. "They might," he says, "if the darkness lifts soon. If not..." He doesn't finish the thought. As you're covering the last of the seeds, a shadow falls over you. Looking up, you see two city guards watching your work with interest. "What's this then?" one asks, his hand resting casually on his sword hilt. "Digging by the city walls?" Your father stands slowly, wiping dirt from his hands. "Just a small garden, sir, trying to grow a few vegetables." The guards exchange looks. "Emperors declared all food production under imperial control," the second guard says. "Private gardens aren't permitted during the emergency." "We're just trying to feed ourselves," your father protests. "We won't take from anyone else." Rules are rules, the first guard says. Then he lowers his voice. Look, I don't like it either, but people are watching. If we let you garden here, everyone will want their own plot. And then what? Fighting over every scrap of dirt in the city? Please, your father says. My family is hungry. The guards look uncomfortable. Finally, the second one sighs. We didn't see anything today, but don't come back here. Find somewhere less obvious. Inside the buildings, maybe. Some folks are growing things on rooftops. Your father nods gratefully, and you quickly gather your makeshift tools. As you walk back towards your cellar home, your father is quiet, thinking. We'll find another spot, he eventually says. Somewhere hidden. But you both know the truth. There are few secrets in a crowded city full of hungry people. And as the unnatural winter stretches into what should be summer, with no sign of the sun returning, the chances of growing anything at all seem slimmer by the day. That night, as your family huddles together for warmth in the cellar, you hear people in the street outside shouting about a new proclamation from the emperor. The darkness the imperial heralds announce is caused by a great ash cloud from a volcano in the distant north. The scholars predict it will lift eventually, though none can say when. At least we know what it is now, your mother whispers in the darkness. Knowing doesn't fill our bellies, your father replies. In the morning you wake to find a dusting of ash on the ground outside, grey flakes drifting down from the murky sky. People walk with cloths over their mouths, eyes squinting against the irritation. The air tastes bitter. See, the emperor was right, Theo says when you meet him later. He's become your friend and guide to city life. Fire Mountain, just like my dad said. When will it end, you ask? Theo shrugs. When the mountain stops spitting fire, I guess, or when the wind changes. Neither seems likely to happen soon. As June turns to July with no improvement in the darkness, the situation in Constantinople grows more desperate. Food riots become common. The emperor increases the soldiers patrolling the streets, but even they look hungry and on edge. Your father has found work helping to build new granaries. The emperor is preparing for a long crisis. The pay is better than the docks, but the work is harder. He comes home each night exhausted, his hands raw. Your mother has taken to standing in the citizens' food line despite not having the proper tokens, hoping the distributors will take pity or be too busy to check. Sometimes it works, often it doesn't. In your cellar home, one of the other families has left, or perhaps died. No one seems to know for sure. Their space is quickly taken by newcomers, a young couple with a baby that cries constantly from hunger. We need to try growing food again, your father says one night, his voice low. Not outside this time. Theo told me about people growing mushrooms in cellars like this. They don't need sunlight. Mushrooms? Your mother sounds skeptical. Can we eat those? If they're the right kind. Better than starving. The next day, your father trades his good knife, one of the last valuable things you own, for a sack of mushroom spores and instructions on how to grow them. He sets up a small bed of damp straw in the darkest corner of the cellar, carefully mixing in the spores. Now we wait, he says. If we're lucky, we'll have food in a few weeks. If you can survive that long, you think but don't say. The mushroom experiment gives your family something to hope for, a project to focus on beyond the daily struggle for food. Each day, your father carefully tends the growing medium, keeping it moist but not too wet. Meanwhile, the unnatural winter continues. The brief summer that Constantinople should be enjoying never arrives. The blue sun hangs in the sky like a dim, sickly eye, providing barely enough light to see by. Frost appears on the ground even in July, killing any plants hardy enough to have survived this long. One morning, about a week after starting the mushroom bed, you wake to find your mother shaking with fever. Her skin burns to the touch. Her eyes are glassy and unfocused. Get water, your father tells you, his face tight with fear, and find Agatha. She knows about herbs. You run through the streets, searching for the old woman who travelled with you to the city. You finally find her in a small courtyard near the docks, sorting through piles of dried plants with several other old women. "My mother's sick," you gasp. "Fever. Please help." Agatha's rheumy eyes sharpen with concern. "Take me to her." When you return to the cellar, your father is cradling your mother's head, trying to get her to drink water. She seems worse than when you left, her breathing shallow and rapid. Agatha kneels beside her, feeling her forehead, checking her pulse, looking into her eyes. "How long has she been like this?" she asks. "She was tired last night," your father says. "This morning, the fever came on suddenly." Agatha's face is grim. There's sickness spreading in the city, the darkness, the cold, the hunger. People's bodies can't fight off disease. "Can you help her?" your father asks, his voice breaking. "I'll try," Agatha says. She opens her pouch of herbs, selecting several varieties. "Boil water if you can. We'll make a tea." For the next few days, your mother hovers between life and death. The fever rages, then breaks, then returns. Agatha's herbal remedies seem to help a little, but without proper food and warmth, recovery is difficult. Your father stops going to work, staying by your mother's side. The loss of income means even less food, but there's no choice. You take over the job of finding sustenance, joining the crowds of children who scavenge the city for anything edible, dropped grain, discarded fish heads, even rats, if you can catch them. On the 5th day of your mother's illness, you return to the cellar to find your father smiling for the first time in weeks. "The fever's broken," he says. "And look." He points to the mushroom bed in the corner. Tiny white growths are pushing up through the straw. "Life finds a way," Agatha says, nodding approvingly, "even in darkness. It feels like the first good omen in months. Your mother's fever is gone, though she remains weak. The mushrooms are growing, promising food in the near future. Perhaps things are finally turning around." But that night, as your family sleeps, shouts and screams erupt in the street outside. Your father jerks awake, motioning for you to stay put as he creeps to the cellar door. "What is it?" your mother whispers, her voice frail. Before he can answer, the door bursts open. Demetrios stands there, his face streaked with soot, a sword in his hand. "Get up," he says urgently. "All of you, the city's burning." The world outside the cellar is chaos. Even in the perpetual twilight that has become normal, you can see the glow of flames several streets away. People run in all directions, some carrying bundles of possessions, others just fleeing blindly. The air reeks of smoke. "What happened?" your father asks, supporting your still weak mother with one arm. "Food riot turned ugly," Demetrios explains, keeping his sword ready as he guides your family through the panicked crowd. "Someone set fire to an imperial granary when the guards wouldn't open it. Flames are spreading fast." "Where are we going?" you ask, struggling to keep up. "Harbour," Demetrios says grimly. "Ships are our best chance now." "Ships to where?" your father asks. "Anywhere but here." You look back at the cellar that's been your home these past weeks. Poor shelter though it was, the mushrooms that were just beginning to grow, everything you're leaving behind, but there's no time for sentiment. The fire is spreading, and the narrow streets of the harbour district will channel it right toward you. Agatha joins your group, along with several others from the boarding house. Together, you push through the panicked crowds toward the waterfront. The going is slow. Your mother can barely walk, even with your father's help. The streets are jammed with people and abandoned carts. "Look out!" someone shouts. A building to your right collapses in a shower of sparks and burning timber. The crowd surges away from it, nearly trampling those who fall. Your father scoops you up with his free arm, somehow managing to support both you and your mother as he forces a path through the mass of bodies. By the time you reach the harbour, you're all coughing from the smoke. The docks are as chaotic as the streets, ships preparing to depart, people fighting to get aboard, sailors beating back those without coins to pay for passage. There, Demetrios points to a medium-sized merchant vessel where crews are frantically loading crates. "That's the Sophia's Fortune. Captain's a friend. He might take us." "Might?" your mother whispers, her face pale with exhaustion. "It's our best chance," Demetrios says. Then, to your father, "Stay here with the women and children. I'll speak to the captain." As Demetrios pushes his way toward the ship, you watch the fire consuming the city behind you. Constantinople, the greatest city in the world, is burning. The flames seem to consume entire districts in minutes, leaping from building to building. The twilight sky has turned an eerie orange-red. Nearby, a well-dressed man argues with a ship's officer, offering a heavy pouch that must contain gold. "Name your price," he's saying. "I'll double it." The officer shakes his head. "No room, sir. We're at capacity." "My children," the man pleads, gesturing to two small girls clinging to his legs. "Take them at least." The scene repeats all along the docks. Desperate people, limited space, impossible choices. Demetrios returns, his expression grim but determined. "Captain will take us, but we have to board now. They're leaving with the tide." "All of us?" your father asks, looking at your group, your family, Agatha, and the others from the boarding house. "He said his friend," a voice cuts in. It's Sophia, the boarding house owner, a large woman with arms like a blacksmith. "That means Demetrios, not the rest of us." Demetrios looks uncomfortable. "He has limited space. I told him you're all with me, but he wants payment," Sophia finishes for him. "How much?" "More than any of us have," Demetrios admits. A tense silence falls over your group. Behind you, the roar of the fire grows louder. Time is running out. "Take the children," your father says suddenly. "That's all I ask. Our child, and any others here. The adults can find another way." "No," your mother protests, clutching you tighter despite her weakness. "We stay together." But the idea has caught on. Other parents in your group are nodding, pushing their children forward. "Please," your father says to Demetrios, "whatever coin we have, whatever valuables, it's all yours if you can get the children on that ship." Demetrios looks torn, glancing from the desperate parents to the waiting ship. Finally, he nods. "I'll try," he says. "Gather whatever you can offer, quickly." The next few minutes are a blur. Parents frantically searching their bundles for anything of value. Children crying, not wanting to be separated. Your own parents arguing in hushed, urgent tones. "I won't leave you," you insist when your father kneels before you. "Listen to me," he says, gripping your shoulders. "The fire is coming. The city may not survive. This ship is your best chance. Then you come too." "There's not enough room, not enough money." His voice breaks. "Your mother and I will find another way out, another ship. We'll find you again, I promise." Before you can protest further, Demetrios returns. "Captain says he'll take 6 children, no more. We need to decide now." The adults in your group look at each other, a terrible understanding passing between them. There are 12 children among you. How do they choose? The youngest, Agatha says firmly, the smallest ones who have the most life ahead of them. No one argues. The calculation is cruel but necessary. You're not among the 6 youngest. At 10 years old, you're somewhere in the middle. Your parents realize this at the same moment you do. Wait, your father says desperately to Demetrios. What about you? Are you boarding? I have to, Demetrios says. I paid my passage weeks ago when the ships first started leaving. Take my child in your place, your father pleads. I'll pay whatever I have. Demetrios hesitates, looking from your father's face to yours. Behind you, the fire has reached the edge of the harbour district. The heat is palpable now, smoke thickening the already dim air. All right, he says finally, but we have to go now. There's no time for proper goodbyes. Your mother pulls you into a fierce hug, whispering that she loves you. Your father presses something into your hand, a small wooden carving of a bird that he made for you years ago. For luck, he says. Remember us. And then you're being hustled toward the ship with the other chosen children. The youngest ones are sobbing. A little boy about 5 keeps trying to run back to his mother, only to be caught and carried forward by Demetrios. You look back once. Your parents stand at the edge of the dock, your mother leaning heavily on your father, both waving. Behind them, the city burns. It's an image that will stay with you forever. The ship is crowded with people and cargo. You and the other children are led below decks to a small space among crates of what smells like spices. It's dark and cramped, but safer than the burning city you're leaving behind. Stay here, Demetrios tells you. I'll check on you when I can. As he turns to go, you grab his sleeve. My parents, you say. Will they find another ship? Demetrios's face is unreadable in the dim light. There are other ships, he says carefully, and your parents are resourceful. Try to rest now. You can feel the ship beginning to move, ropes being cast off, oars splashing. Through a small porthole, you catch a last glimpse of Constantinople, a city of shadows and flame, disappearing into the unnatural twilight. The journey is miserable. The ship is overcrowded, food and water strictly rationed. Many passengers are sick from the constant rocking or from drinking seawater in their thirst. The children huddle together for warmth and comfort, sharing stories about the families they left behind, making promises about what they'll do when they're reunited. You don't join in these conversations. Something about Demetrios's careful wording when you asked about your parents has planted a seed of doubt in your mind. There are other ships, he said. Not they'll find another ship or they'll be fine. Just there are other ships. On the 3rd day at sea, you corner Demetrios when he brings your group's daily ration of water and hard biscuits. Tell me the truth, you demand, about my parents, about the others we left behind. Demetrios sighs, setting down the water jug. What do you want me to say? That they surely found passage on another vessel? That they definitely escaped the fire? I don't know these things. But you think they didn't, you press. He looks at you for a long moment, then sits down on a crate across from you. Listen, he says quietly. The harbour was in chaos. The fire was spreading. Most ships were already full or leaving in panic. Could your parents have found passage? Yes. Was it likely? No. He runs a hand through his hair. I'm sorry. That's the truth. The words hit you like a physical blow. You've been holding on to hope, telling yourself that your family would be reunited soon. Now that hope feels foolish. Why did you take me instead of yourself, you ask? Because I saw something in your father's eyes, Demetrios says simply. The same thing I saw in my own father's eyes years ago when he put me on a ship during the Persian Wars. The look of a parent who will do anything to save their child. He pauses. I couldn't refuse that. You're silent for a long moment, processing this. Where are we going? You finally ask. Sicily, Demetrios says. It's part of the empire, but far from Constantinople. The captain has trading contacts there, and they say the darkness isn't as bad in the west. That night, alone in your corner of the hold, you cry silently for your parents, for your village, for everything you've lost to the darkness and chaos. You clutch the wooden bird your father gave you, your last connection to your old life. By the time dawn breaks, though in this strange time of darkness dawn is just a subtle lightening of the gloom, you've cried yourself out. Something has changed inside you. The child who left that Byzantine village months ago is gone. In their place is someone harder, someone who understands that survival sometimes means terrible loss. The voyage to Sicily takes nearly 2 weeks. The weather is unpredictable, storms that seem to come from nowhere, sudden drops in temperature, periods of complete calm when the oarsmen strain to move the heavily laden ship. Through it all, the sky remains dim, the sun a pale blue disk, barely visible through the haze. You learn that Sicily is an island, once part of the Western Roman Empire, now reclaimed by Emperor Justinian's generals as part of his grand plan to restore Rome's ancient glory. The captain chose it because it's fertile farmland, less dependent on grain imports than Constantinople. If anywhere might have food during this crisis, it's Sicily. When you finally sight land, a dark smudge on the horizon that gradually resolves into mountains and coastline, the mood on the ship lifts. People who have barely spoken for days suddenly find their voices, pointing out landmarks, making plans. We'll dock at Syracuse, Demetrios tells you and the other children. It's a good-sized city. We can find work there, shelter. What kind of work can children do? Asks a girl about your age. All kinds, Demetrios says, not unkindly. This isn't Constantinople, with its strict guilds and regulations. It's a frontier now. Everyone works. The harbour at Syracuse is smaller than Constantinople's, but busy nonetheless. Ships crowd the docks, loading and unloading cargo. You notice immediately that while the sky is still dimmer than normal, the darkness here isn't as oppressive as it was in the east. The air feels warmer too. As your ship docks, officials come aboard to inspect the cargo and passengers. There's some argument between them and the captain. Raised voices, gesturing at the crowded deck. Demetrios looks worried. What's happening? You ask him. They're saying the city is full, he explains. Too many refugees already from the eastern provinces. They don't want to accept more. Fear grips you. After everything you've been through, will you be turned away again? But Demetrios is resourceful. He speaks to the officials, gesturing toward the children. You can't hear what he's saying, but his expression is earnest, persuasive. Finally, one of the officials nods reluctantly. We can stay, Demetrios announces when he returns. But only temporarily. We're expected to find work and move inland within a month. What about the others? Someone asks, nodding toward the adult passengers. Some can stay, some can't. Demetrios's tone makes it clear he doesn't want to elaborate. As you disembark, you see the unfortunate ones, those denied entry, being herded back onto the ship or onto other vessels. Their protests fall on deaf ears. Syracuse, like Constantinople, is overwhelmed with hungry people. The city itself is a curious blend of old and new. Ancient Greek buildings stand alongside newer Roman construction and Byzantine additions. The streets are narrower than Constantinople's, winding up hills and down to the harbour in a confusing tangle. People of various backgrounds mix together. Greeks, Romans, Jews, Goths, Africans, all subjects of Justinian's reclaimed empire. Demetrios leads your group to a church near the harbour, where a harried-looking priest reluctantly agrees to provide temporary shelter in an outbuilding. It's basic accommodation, just a roof, walls and floor, but after the ship, it feels luxurious. Rest today, Demetrios tells everyone. Tomorrow we start looking for work, for permanent places to stay. That evening, as you settle onto your patch of floor in the church outbuilding, a small figure sits down beside you. It's one of the younger children from the ship, a boy about 6 years old named Marcus. "Are your parents dead too?" he asks bluntly, with the directness only children can manage. "I don't know," you answer honestly. "They were in Constantinople when the fire started." Marcus nods solemnly. "My mother died last winter. My father put me on the ship before the fire reached us. He said he'd find another way out." He looks down at his hands. Demetrios says he probably didn't. You don't know what to say to comfort him, so you simply sit in silence together, two children adrift in a world turned upside down by darkness. The next morning, Demetrios divides your group into smaller units for efficiency. You, Marcus, and 2 other children are assigned to stay with Demetrios himself. "I have connections here," he explains. "A cousin who works in the grain storage. He might be able to help us." The cousin, a bald man named Paulos, lives in a small house on the outskirts of Syracuse with his wife and 3 children. When Demetrios shows up with 4 more children in tow, Paulos is less than pleased. "Have you lost your mind?" he demands. "We can barely feed ourselves." "We won't be a burden," Demetrios promises. "The older ones can work. I'll find jobs for all of us." "Work where? The city's flooded with refugees. Every position has 10 people fighting for it." The argument continues inside, while you and the other children wait in the dusty street. Finally, Paulos's wife intervenes. You can't hear what she says, but whatever it is, it works. Paulos emerges from the house, still scowling, but resigned. "You can stay in the shed out back," he tells Demetrios. 2 weeks, that's all, and everyone works, even the little ones. True to his word, Paulos finds work for all of you. You and the oldest girl, Lucia, are assigned to help at the grain warehouse where Paulos works, sweeping floors and running errands. Marcus and the other young boy, Titus, stay with Paulos's wife, helping tend the garden and chickens. The work is hard, but it comes with an unexpected benefit. Food. Not much and not good quality, but regular meals of bread, cheese, and sometimes fish or vegetables. After months of near starvation, it feels like a feast. You begin to regain some of the weight you lost during the darkness. And there is hope here that wasn't present in Constantinople. Though the sky remains dim, the sun a pale shadow of its former self, crops are growing in Sicily, stunted and delayed, yes, but growing. Fishing continues. Life adapts. One evening, about a week after your arrival, you're sweeping the warehouse floor when you overhear Paulos talking with another worker. "From Africa says it's even better there," Paulos is saying. "Sun almost normal, crops only a little behind." "How can that be?" the other man asks. "The darkness is everywhere." "Not equally. Worst in the east and north, better in the south and west. Something to do with wind patterns, they say. You think about this as you work. If the darkness is less severe in Africa, might it be possible that Constantinople will recover too? That your parents, if they survived the fire, might find their way to better conditions?" That night, you ask Demetrios about it. "Is it true the darkness is lifting in some places?" He considers the question. Not lifting exactly, more like it was never as bad in some regions. Africa, parts of Hispania, even southern Italy, they've had more light all along. The ash cloud is thicker in the east. So Constantinople might improve too. Demetrios sighs. Maybe, eventually. But there's the fire to consider and the famine that was already underway. He puts a hand on your shoulder. I understand you want to hope. Just be prepared for any outcome. The days settle into a routine. Work, meals, sleep, repeat. The shed behind Paulos's house is cramped but dry. You share it with Demetrios and the other children, all of you sleeping on straw pallets arranged around the small space. It's not comfortable, but it's stable. The first stability you've known since the darkness began. You notice changes in yourself. You're more watchful, more cautious with your food and possessions. You've learned to work quietly to avoid drawing attention. These are survival skills learned through hard experience. 2 weeks pass, then 3. Paulos stops mentioning the deadline for you to leave. Perhaps his wife has convinced him to let you stay, or perhaps he's realized the extra hands are useful around the warehouse. Whatever the reason, your temporary shelter becomes semi-permanent. Word reaches Syracuse about conditions elsewhere. Constantinople is rebuilding after the fire, but slowly. The darkness persists throughout the empire, though with regional variations. Crops continue to struggle in most areas. Famine spreads, and now there are rumors of a new threat. Disease spreading through weakened populations. Plague, you overhear Paulos telling Demetrios one evening. Started in Egypt, they say, moving north, people dying by the thousands. Here? Demetrios asks sharply. Not yet, but trade continues. Ships still come from Egypt. It's just a matter of time. That night you dream of your parents. In the dream, they're standing on the burning dock in Constantinople, waving as your ship pulls away. But as you watch, the flames don't consume them. Instead, they find another vessel. They escape. They're searching for you, even now. You wake with tears on your face, the wooden bird clutched tightly in your hand. Weeks turn into months. Summer, such as it is in this darkened world, gives way to autumn. The blue sun remains dim, but there are days when it seems a little brighter, when the haze thins somewhat. On these days, spirits lift throughout Syracuse. People venture outdoors more. Markets bustle. Children play in streets that normally remain quiet. You've grown closer to the other children in your group, especially Marcus. His resilience amazes you. Despite losing his parents and his home, he finds reasons to smile, to laugh, to play like the child he is. You find yourself looking after him, becoming the big sibling he needs. Demetrios notices this. You're good with him, he comments one evening as you help Marcus mend a torn tunic. He needs someone, you say simply. As do you, Demetrios points out. We all do. The conversation turns to the future, something you've avoided thinking about too much. But with winter approaching, plans must be made. Paulos has been generous, Demetrios says, but this arrangement was never meant to be permanent. The shed will be too cold in winter. Where will we go? You ask, feeling the familiar fear of displacement rising again. I've been talking with some people. There's work in the countryside, farms that need hands. They provide housing. It's hard work, but steady. All of us together? Demetrios hesitates. Possibly not. Different farms need different workers. The younger children might do better in the city, with families looking for household help. The thought of separating from Marcus and the others after everything you've been through is painful. You've become a makeshift family bound by shared trauma and survival. I want to stay with Marcus, you say firmly. Demetrios nods, unsurprised. I thought you might say that. I'll see what I can arrange. True to his word, Demetrios finds a placement that will accept both you and Marcus, a medium-sized farm about a day's journey inland. The owner, a widow named Helena, needs workers to replace those who fled when the darkness began. She can't pay much, Demetrios explains, but there's housing and food, and she's willing to take both of you. Leaving Syracuse is harder than you expected. Despite being there only a few months, it had become familiar, safe. Lucia and Titus will remain in the city, taken in by families needing household help. Your little group is breaking apart. The morning of departure, you gather your few possessions. Some clothes provided by Paulos's wife, your wooden bird, a small knife Demetrios gave you for protection. Marcus does the same, his bundle even smaller than yours. Demetrios will accompany you to the farm, then return to Syracuse, where he's found regular work at the harbour. He's been a constant presence since Constantinople, a guardian when you had no one else. Saying goodbye to him will be difficult. As you leave Paulos's house for the last time, his wife presses a small package into your hands. "Bread for the journey," she says, "and a little cheese. Take care of yourself and the little one." The road inland is better maintained than you expected, a remnant of Roman engineering kept up by Justinian's administrators. Other travellers share the path, merchants with carts, soldiers on patrol, farmers bringing goods to market. Everyone looks thin, everyone moves with purpose. There's no room for idleness in this dimmed world. As you walk, you notice something you hadn't in the city. The landscape is changing. Trees that should be in full autumn colour are just beginning to turn. Crops that should have been harvested months ago are only now ripening. The darkness has slowed everything, created a perpetual delay in nature's rhythms. "Will it ever go back to normal?" Marcus asks, noticing the same thing. "The old people say it will," Demetrios answers. "There have been dark years before, though none this long. The sun always returns eventually. By midday you can see your destination in the distance, a cluster of buildings nestled in a small valley surrounded by fields. Smoke rises from several chimneys. Even from here you can see workers in the fields, harvesting whatever crops have managed to grow in the dim light. That's Helena's farm, Demetrios confirms, larger than most in these parts. She inherited it from her husband, who got it from his father, old Roman family that stayed when others fled to Constantinople centuries ago. As you get closer, you can see the farm in more detail. The main house is stone, 2 stories tall. Around it cluster smaller buildings, barns, sheds, quarters for workers. The fields are extensive, growing what looks like wheat, olives and vegetables. Sheep graze on a hillside. It's a substantial operation. Helena meets you at the edge of her property, a tall woman with iron-grey hair and sun-weathered skin. Despite the general thinness that marks everyone in these hungry times, she stands straight and strong. "These are the children?" she asks Demetrios, looking you and Marcus over with a critical eye. "Yes, they're hard workers, both of them." Helena nods, apparently satisfied with what she sees. "They'll need to be. There's no place for idleness here." Her tone is firm, but not unkind. "Come, I'll show you where you'll stay." The worker housing is basic but solid. A long building divided into small rooms, each with a straw mattress, a shelf for possessions, a small fireplace for cooking and heat. You and Marcus will share one of these rooms. "Meals are communal," Helena explains, leading you through the farm. "Everyone works, everyone eats. Work begins at first light, ends at dusk. Rest days are every 7th day, unless there's urgent harvest work. It's a strict regime, but fair, and after months of uncertainty, the clarity of expectations is almost a relief." That evening, as you and Marcus settle into your new quarters, Demetrios prepares to leave. He'll stay the night at the farm, then head back to Syracuse in the morning. "You'll be all right here," he tells you, helping start a small fire in your fireplace. Helena runs a tight operation, but she's known to be fair. The work is hard, but honest. "Thank you," you say, suddenly awkward, "for everything, for taking me instead of yourself on the ship, for keeping us safe." Demetrios looks embarrassed. "I did what anyone would do." But you both know that's not true. In a world turned dark and desperate, many people think only of themselves. Demetrios chose differently. If you hesitate, then push on. If you ever hear anything about Constantinople, about survivors from the fire, my parents, I'll send word immediately, he promises. Ships still come from the east. News travels even in these times. In the morning, you watch from the edge of the fields as Demetrios disappears down the road towards Syracuse. Your last connection to your old life, to Constantinople, to the parents you lost. Now it's just you and Marcus, starting yet another new chapter in this darkened world. As you turn back toward the farm, toward the work waiting for you, you feel the weight of the wooden bird in your pocket. You touch it briefly, a talisman of hope and memory, then square your shoulders and move forward. The darkness may continue, but so do you, while you adjust to farm life in Sicily, far across the sea in Constantinople. Emperor Justinian paces the marble floors of his palace. Oil lamps burn day and night, their golden light a poor substitute for the sun that's been hidden for months now. The emperor's purple robes, woven with gold thread, seem dull in the artificial light. More reports of famine, your majesty, says a court official, bowing low. Thrace, Macedonia, northern Anatolia, all requesting grain shipments. Justinian stops his pacing, a tall, imposing figure despite the strain evident on his face. The problems of empire weigh heavily on him, the reconquest of the Western territories, the ongoing Persian threat, the religious disputes within Christianity, and now this darkness, this endless winter. What do our Egyptian provinces report? He asks. Better conditions, your majesty. The darkness is less there. Crops reduced but not failed entirely. And the grain shipments? The official hesitates. Pirates, your majesty, taking advantage of the chaos. 3 ships lost last week alone. Justinian closes his eyes briefly, mastering his frustration. Double the naval patrols. I want those shipments protected at all costs. Yes, your majesty, but the cost will be paid, Justinian interrupts firmly. My people will not starve while I sit in a palace. See to it. As the official bows and backs away, Justinian turns to the window. Outside, what should be a bright spring morning in Constantinople is instead a murky twilight. The great city is still recovering from the fire that swept through it months ago. Rebuilding happens slowly in this dimmed world, with materials scarce and workers weakened by hunger. His wife, the Empress Theodora, joins him at the window. Once an actress and courtesan, now she's his most trusted advisor, known for her intelligence and determination. More bad news? She asks, though she already knows the answer. Always, Justinian sighs. The darkness persists. The people suffer, and our enemies circle, waiting for weakness. Theodora takes his hand, a rare gesture of affection rarely witnessed by others. The empire has survived worse. We will endure. Will we? For a moment, the emperor's doubt shows through his usual confident facade. My generals write from Italy that the Goths are regrouping, taking advantage of our distraction. The Slavs push at our northern borders. The Persians watch our eastern provinces with hungry eyes. All the more reason to show strength, Theodora says firmly. Continue the reconquest. Secure our borders. Show the world that not even this darkness can stop Byzantium. Justinian nods slowly. You're right, of course, as always. He straightens, imperial resolve returning. Double the Italian expedition's supplies. Send word to Belisarius that he's to press forward with the campaign against the Goths. As Theodora leaves to convey these orders, Justinian returns to the window, gazing out at his darkened capital. Let there be light, he murmurs, an emperor's prayer to a silent heaven. Back in Sicily, your days take on a steady rhythm. Up before the dim dawn, working in Helena's fields until dusk, then a simple meal before collapsing into exhausted sleep. It's hard work, but there's a certain comfort in the routine, in knowing exactly what each day will bring. The farm proves to be a good placement. Helena is strict but fair. Food is distributed equally among all workers. Simple fare, but enough to keep you strong. Your room, shared with Marcus, becomes a small haven. You've hung herbs to dry from the ceiling beams, collected colourful stones from the fields to decorate the shelf, made it as much of a home as possible. Marcus has adapted well too. At 6, he's too young for the heaviest field work, but he helps with the animals, feeding chickens, collecting eggs, watching the sheep. He has a way with creatures, a gentle touch that makes even the most skittish animals trust him. "This sheep is sick," he tells you one evening as you both sit by your small fire. "I can tell by how she breathes. Helena doesn't know yet." "How can you tell?" you ask, impressed by his observation. He shrugs. "I just can. My father raised sheep. Before. It's how you all refer to life before the darkness. A simple division of time into before and after. Before, when the sun shone bright and food was plentiful. After, when everything changed. Should we tell Helena?" Marcus nods seriously. "Tomorrow, if the sickness spreads, many sheep could die." His concern proves justified. The next day, when you tell Helena about the sheep, she has the animal separated from the flock immediately. The farm's oldest worker, a wizened man named Thomas, examines it and confirms an infection. "Good eye, boy," he tells Marcus. "Caught it early enough to save her and the rest of the flock." Helena is impressed too. "You have your father's knowledge of animals," she tells Marcus. From that day on, she gives him more responsibility with the livestock, a role he takes to with pride. Winter settles over Sicily, a milder season than what you knew in your Byzantine village, but still cold, especially with the sun's warmth diminished by the persistent haze. Work continues, shifting from the fields to indoor tasks, repairing tools, processing olives, spinning wool, preparing for the spring planting that you all hope will be under a brighter sun. News trickles in from travellers, merchants, and official announcements. The darkness continues across the empire, though with the regional variations you've noticed, worse in the north and east, somewhat better in the south and west. Famine has settled in where crops failed entirely. Disease follows hunger, as it always does. One cold evening in January, a group of merchants stops at the farm, seeking shelter for the night. Helena welcomes them, as is custom. In return for a roof and fire, they share news from their travels. And it's dire. "Plague in Egypt," says the oldest merchant, warming his hands at the common room fire. "Started in Pelusium, they say, spreading north and west." "What kind of plague?" Helena asks sharply. "Bad kind. Swellings in the groin and armpits. Fever. Death comes quick for most." The room falls silent. Everyone knows what plague can do, how it can sweep through populations already weakened by hunger and cold. "Has it reached Sicily?" someone finally asks. "Not that we've heard," the merchant says, "but ships still come from Egypt. It's just a matter of time." That night, you have trouble sleeping. You've already survived so much: the initial darkness, the flight from your village, the fire in Constantinople, the dangerous sea journey. Now plague threatens. Will the challenges never end? Marcus, sensing your restlessness, speaks from his bed across the small room. "Are you scared?" he asks. "A little," you admit. There's no point lying to him. He's young, but he's seen enough to recognize fear. Well, me too, he says simply. Then, after a pause, but we're together, that helps. His words, so simple and true, comfort you more than he could know. You are together. You've become family to each other, bound by shared survival. Whatever comes next, you'll face it together. As winter deepens, Helena takes stock of the farm's supplies, carefully calculating how long they'll last if spring planting is delayed by the continuing darkness. You're included in these discussions, having proven yourself responsible and quick-thinking over the months. We're better off than most, Helena concludes, reviewing the figures. The southern exposure of our fields meant we got at least some harvest, and the sheep provide wool and milk when crops fail. What about the nearby villages, you ask, thinking of the hungry people you've seen on the roads? Helena's expression turns grim. Not as fortunate. The imperial officials requisition what little they produce for the army. Justinian's wars continue, darkness or no. This surprises you. The emperor is still fighting, even now. Especially now, Helena says. He sees it as more important than ever to reunite the old Roman lands, to strengthen the empire against this crisis. You think about this, trying to imagine the emperor's perspective. Is he right to continue his campaigns, or should he focus all resources on helping his people survive the darkness? It's not a simple question. Later, working in the olive grove, you discuss it with Thomas, the old farmhand who has become something of a mentor to you. The emperor has his reasons, Thomas says, his gnarled hands skilled at pruning despite his age. He sees beyond this darkness to the empire that will emerge when the sun returns. If it returns, you say, voicing the doubt that everyone feels but few speak aloud. Thomas pauses, looking up at the dim blue disk barely visible through the haze. It will. I've lived long enough to know that nothing lasts forever. Not empires, not darkness, not even life itself. He returns to his pruning. The sun will shine bright again. Whether we're here to see it, that's another matter. His words stay with you, both ominous and oddly comforting. The sun will return. The question is surviving until it does. February brings a surprise, a letter delivered by an imperial courier who stops at the farm while travelling between Syracuse and other outposts. It's for you from Demetrios in Syracuse. Your hands shake slightly as you unroll the parchment. News from the outside world is rare enough. News addressed specifically to you is unprecedented. The letter is brief but momentous. A ship arrived from Constantinople. Among the passengers, a man and woman who might be your parents. They describe a child matching you. They're searching villages around Syracuse. If possible, come to the city. If not, send word and I'll bring them to you. Demetrios. You read it twice, 3 times, hardly daring to believe. Could your parents have survived the fire after all? Found passage on another ship, made their way to Sicily in search of you? What is it? Marcus asks, seeing your expression. My parents, you whisper. They might be alive, in Syracuse. Helena reads the letter when you show it to her, her face thoughtful. Syracuse is 2 days' journey. The roads aren't safe for children alone. I have to go, you insist. They're my parents. Yes, you do, she agrees, surprising you. And you won't go alone. Thomas will accompany you. Relief washes over you. Thank you. You've earned it, Helena says simply. You're a good worker and you've become part of this farm. Family looks after family. The words touch you deeply. After so much loss, so much displacement, you've found belonging here. What about me? Marcus asks in a small voice. Will you come back? You kneel to his level, looking him in the eye. Of course I will. I promise. You're my family too now. The journey to Syracuse takes exactly 2 days, as Helena predicted. You and Thomas set out at dawn, following the main road. He carries a staff for walking and protection, and Helena has provided food and a small amount of coin for emergencies. Thomas proves an excellent travelling companion, vigilant but calm, full of stories about Sicily's long history to pass the time. He remembers the island before Justinian's reconquest, when it was ruled by Ostrogoths, and before that by Vandals, and before that by the Western Roman Empire. The land remains while empires come and go, he philosophizes as you walk. The people endure, whoever claims to rule them. Syracuse looks different as you approach it this time, not as a desperate refugee, but as someone with purpose, with hope. The city walls still rise impressively against the dim sky, but now they represent possibility rather than barrier. Demetrios meets you at the same church where you first stayed upon arriving in Sicily. He's thinner than you remember, but his eyes light up when he sees you. "You came," he says, embracing you briefly. "Good, they're staying nearby. I told them it might be you, but didn't want to raise false hopes." "Are you sure it's them?" you ask, heart pounding. "They're from your village. They described a child your age, with your name, separated during the Constantinople fire. It has to be them." Thomas waits at the church while Demetrios leads you through the streets to a small inn near the harbour. Your legs feel weak, your mouth dry with nervousness. What if they're not your parents? What if they are, but they've changed, hardened by their experiences as you have? The inn is humble but clean, catering to sailors and merchants of modest means. Demetrios speaks briefly to the innkeeper, who points upstairs. As you climb the narrow steps, your hand clutches the wooden bird in your pocket, your father's last gift. The room is small, with a single window overlooking the harbour. A man and woman sit on the edge of the bed, rising quickly as the door opens. For a moment, you just stare at each other across the room. They're thinner, greyer, their faces lined with hardship, but the eyes, your father's deep brown, your mother's lighter hazel, are unmistakable. "It's you," your mother whispers, her voice breaking. "It's really you." And then you're in their arms, all three of you crying and laughing at once, holding each other as if you might disappear again at any moment. "We thought we'd lost you forever," your father says, his voice thick with emotion. "How did you survive the fire?" you ask, still hardly believing they're real. They tell their story in turns, the words tumbling out. After you left on the ship, they tried to find passage on another vessel, but the harbour was in chaos, ships leaving in panic or refusing more passengers. "We headed for the city gates instead," your father explains, "fighting our way through streets already burning." They made it out of Constantinople with a group of other refugees travelling west on foot, taking whatever work they could find along the way. They survived bandit attacks, hunger, exposure to the elements. What kept them going was the hope, however slim, of finding you. "We heard rumours of a ship that made it to Sicily," your mother says. "A ship with children aboard. We had to try." Their journey took months, delayed by your mother's health, by the difficulty of travel in the darkened world. They only reached Syracuse a week ago, asking everyone they met about refugee children from Constantinople. "And then this man found us," your father says, nodding toward Demetrios. "Said he might know where you were." You turn to Demetrios, gratitude beyond words filling you. "Thank you," you manage to say, "for everything." He just shrugs, looking embarrassed. Anyone would have done the same. But again, you all know that's not true. In a world of darkness and desperation, his consistent kindness shines like a beacon. That night you stay at the inn with your parents, catching up on the months you've been separated. You tell them about the farm, about Helena, about Marcus, who's become like a brother to you. They tell you more about their journey, the people who helped them, the obstacles they overcame. What happens now? You ask eventually. Will we stay in Syracuse? Your parents exchange a look. We thought to take you back east, your father says. There's word that conditions are improving in some parts of Anatolia. The idea of another journey, of leaving the stability you found at Helena's farm, fills you with unexpected dread, and there's Marcus to consider. You promised him you'd return. I need to think about it, you say carefully, and I need to go back to the farm at least to say goodbye properly and to get Marcus. Marcus, your mother asks. A younger boy. We've been together since Constantinople. He has no one else? Your parents exchange another look, a silent communication built on years of marriage. Of course we'll go back to the farm with you, your father says, and meet this Marcus. Any child who's important to you is important to us. Relief washes over you. They understand. They're still your parents, still the loving, reasonable people you remember from before. The next morning, you, your parents, and Thomas prepare for the journey back to Helena's farm. Demetrios sees you off at the city gate. Will you come visit? You ask him. When I can, he promises. And if you ever need anything, I know, you say, smiling. We'll find you. The journey back to the farm takes longer than the trip to Syracuse. Your mother still isn't fully recovered from her ordeal and needs frequent rest, but no one minds the slower pace. After so long apart, just being together is enough. You tell your parents more about farm life as you walk, about the fields and animals, about Helena's firm but fair management. They listen attentively, asking questions, showing interest in this chapter of your life they weren't part of. It sounds like you've done well there, your mother observes. Found a place for yourself. I have, you agree. It's not like our village, but it's become home in a way. And this Marcus, your father says, tell us more about him. You describe the younger boy. His gentleness with animals, his quiet resilience, the way you've looked after each other. He's lost everyone, you explain. His father put him on the ship during the fire, like you did with me, but his father didn't make it out. Poor child, your mother murmurs. I promised I'd come back for him, you say, watching their faces carefully. Your father nods thoughtfully. A promise that should be kept. When you arrive at the farm, Helena welcomes your parents warmly, insisting they stay as guests while they recover their strength. Marcus is overjoyed to see you return, though he becomes shy around your parents at first. Are you leaving with them? He asks when you're alone, the fear evident in his voice. Not without you, you assure him. I promised, remember. Over the next few days, your parents observe life on the farm, even helping with some of the lighter work despite Helena's protests that they're guests. They get to know Marcus, drawing him out of his shell with stories and small kindnesses. One evening, as you all sit by the fire in the common room, your father clears his throat, a sign he has something important to say. Helena, he begins, your farm is impressive, well managed even in these difficult times. Thank you, Helena says, looking curious about where this is going. My wife and I have been talking. We had thought to return east to try rebuilding our lives there, but seeing this place, seeing how our child has thrived here, he glances at your mother, who nods encouragingly. We wonder if there might be room for 2 more workers, permanent ones. Helena doesn't look entirely surprised. I could use experienced farmers, she admits, especially with spring planting coming, darkness or no. And Marcus, your mother adds, he would stay with us, of course, as family. Marcus's head snaps up, his eyes wide with hope and disbelief. Really? Really? Your father confirms. If that's what you want. Marcus looks at you, silently asking if this is truly happening. You nod, your own heart full. This is more than you dared hope for. Your parents found, a home secured, Marcus included in your reunited family. Then it's settled, Helena says, practical as always. There's an empty workers' house at the south end of the property, needs some repair, but it would suit a family of 4 well enough. And just like that, another new chapter begins. Your parents take up residence on the farm, your father working the fields, your mother helping with food preservation and textile work. The empty workers' house becomes your family home, larger than your room in the barracks, with space for all of you. Marcus officially becomes part of your family, a brother in all but blood. At first, he's tentative around your parents, as if afraid they might change their minds, but their consistent kindness gradually wins his trust. "Do you think they really want me?" he asks one night, as you both settle into your beds in the new house. "I know they do," you assure him. "They wouldn't have said it otherwise. But I'm not their real child." "Neither am I anymore," you say, surprising yourself with the insight. "Not the same one they lost in Constantinople. We've all changed. We're building something new now." As winter slowly gives way to spring, you notice subtle changes in the world around you. The blue haze that has cloaked the sun for nearly a year seems to be thinning, ever so slightly. Some days the light is almost normal for a few hours, before dimming again. Thomas, with his decades of observing nature, notices too. The darkness is lifting, he tells you one day, as you both check the fruit trees for signs of budding. Slowly, but it's happening. How can you tell? He points to a nearby tree. "See those buds? They're earlier than last year. And the birds, listen, more of them singing. Nature knows things we don't." You listen. And he's right. There are more bird songs than you've heard since the darkness began. A cautious hope begins to bloom inside you, matching the tentative buds on the trees. Reports from travellers confirm what you're observing. Throughout the empire, the darkness is gradually receding. Not all at once and not completely, but enough to notice, enough to hope. One clear morning in early April, about a year after the darkness first descended, you rise before dawn as usual, but as you step outside to begin your chores, you notice something different. The eastern horizon has a distinct glow, not the diffuse lightning of the past year, but a genuine herald of sunrise. You stand transfixed as the glow brightens, spreads, and then, almost shocking after so long, the edge of the sun appears, golden rather than blue, distinct rather than hazy. It climbs slowly into the sky, still partially veiled by lingering haze, but undeniably stronger than it's been in a year. Others emerge from their houses, drawn by the unusual light. Helena, Thomas, your parents, Marcus, all the farm workers, everyone stands silently watching this ordinary miracle of sunrise that had been denied for so long. "It's coming back," Marcus whispers, slipping his hand into yours. "Yes," you agree. "It's coming back." The sun's return isn't complete or permanent. In the days that follow, some mornings are brighter, others nearly as dim as before. But the trend is clear. The darkness is receding, the natural order gradually reasserting itself. With more sunlight, the land begins to respond. Plants grow more vigorously, animals become more active, people's spirits lift, energy returning after the long lethargy of darkness. But along with this hope comes troubling news. The plague that began in Egypt has indeed spread, reaching Sicily's eastern ports. Syracuse has reported cases, with quarantine measures being hastily implemented. Helena institutes strict rules. No one is to travel to the city unless absolutely necessary. Any supplies needed will be obtained from smaller, local markets. Anyone feeling ill is to report it immediately. "The darkness weakened people," she explains, "made them vulnerable to disease. We must be vigilant now, even as the light returns. For once, the farm's relative isolation becomes an advantage. Distance from population centres means distance from contagion. You continue your work watchful but not panicked, grateful for each day of increased sunlight." Your family settles into a rhythm, adapting to life on the Sicilian farm. Your parents speak often of your Byzantine village, keeping memories alive, but they don't talk of returning. Too much has changed. This is home now. Marcus blossoms under the care of your parents, especially your father, who teaches him more about animal husbandry. The shy, traumatized boy who boarded a ship in burning Constantinople is becoming a confident, capable child with a special gift for healing sick animals. And you find yourself in a strange position, both child and adult, having experienced more in a year than many do in a lifetime. The darkness aged you, forced you to grow up fast. Now, with your family reunited and expanded, you feel yourself relaxing slightly, allowing yourself to be young again in some ways. One evening, as your family sits together outside your house, enjoying the longer twilight that comes with the strengthening sun, your father puts his arm around you. "I'm proud of you," he says simply, "for surviving, for helping Marcus, for becoming who you are now." The words fill a space inside you that you didn't realize was empty. For so long, you focused on physical survival, food, shelter, safety. This recognition of who you've become, the inner person forged by crisis, touches something deeper. "I had help," you say, thinking of Demetrios, Helena, Thomas, all those who guided you through the darkness. "We all did," your father agrees. "That's how we survived, together." As the stars appear overhead, brighter now, more visible as the atmospheric haze continues to thin, you reflect on the journey that brought you here, from your small Byzantine village to Constantinople, from burning city to perilous sea, from refugee to farm worker, from lost child to found family. The darkness that descended in 536 changed everything, reshaping the world and everyone in it. The full toll won't be known for years. How many died of famine, fire, disease, how many empires weakened, how many communities destroyed. But sitting here, under a clearing sky with your expanded family around you, you understand something important. Darkness, however long and terrible, is never permanent. The sun returns, life continues, and sometimes from the ashes of what was lost, something new and precious can grow. Marcus leans against you, half asleep after a long day's work. Your mother and father sit close together, talking quietly. In the distance, Helena's farm spreads out under the starlight, fields ready for a new season of growth. The worst may be over, but challenges remain. The plague still threatens. The empire still struggles to feed its people. Recovery will take years, but tonight, watching the stars shine through a sky that's a little clearer than yesterday, you feel something that's been rare during the long darkness: hope. While the sun slowly returns to Sicily, the impact of the long darkness varies dramatically across the world. The volcanic winter that began in 536 affects different regions in different ways, creating a patchwork of suffering and adaptation. Far to the north, in the cold lands of Scandinavia, the situation is dire. These northern realms, already accustomed to long winters, find themselves trapped in what seems like endless cold. Snow falls in summer, fjords freeze that normally remain open, crops fail completely for 2 consecutive years. A Norse chieftain stands at the edge of a bog, his breath clouding in air that should be summer warm. Behind him, members of his clan wait silently, watching as he weighs the heavy gold arm ring in his hand. The piece represents generations of wealth traded for and fought over, a symbol of his family's status. Without ceremony, he hurls it into the dark waters of the bog. The gold gleams briefly in the dim light, then disappears with a soft splash. Other treasures have preceded it: brooches, weapons, even a small chest of Roman coins. Offerings to the gods, desperate attempts to end the darkness that has brought famine to his people. "Will it be enough?" asks his son, standing at his shoulder. The chieftain watches the ripples on the water's surface. It must be, he says, though doubt edges his voice. The gods must be appeased. But the sacrifices seem to make no difference. The cold continues. Hunting, normally supplemented by farming, becomes the only source of food. Game grows scarce as animals either die or migrate southward seeking warmth. The weak and elderly perish first, then children. Entire villages are abandoned as survivors consolidate, huddling together for warmth and protection. These events will echo through Norse memory for centuries, eventually finding expression in the legend of Fimbulwinter, the terrible winter that precedes Ragnarok, the end of the world. The darkness of 536 becomes mythologized, a cautionary tale of God's wrath and human suffering. In China, nearly 5,000 miles to the east, different signs of disaster appear. Chronicles from the Southern Dynasty's period record a strange yellow dust falling from the sky, volcanic ash carried on high-altitude winds. People scoop it up by the handful, puzzling over its nature and source. Is it a punishment from heaven? A warning? The imperial court's astronomers observe the blue sun with growing concern. In Chinese cosmology, such celestial abnormalities reflect disorder on Earth, suggesting the emperor, the son of heaven, has lost the mandate of heaven. Political instability follows environmental disaster, as it often does. Then comes the cold. Frost appears in midsummer, snow falls in August in northern provinces. The delicate rice paddies of the south suffer, yields dropping dramatically. Imperial granaries are opened, but supplies are limited. Famine spreads through Qingzhou and other northern regions. The chronicles record the devastating result. 7 or 8 out of 10 people died. Entire communities vanish, never to be rebuilt. The population of northern China drops precipitously, altering settlement patterns for generations. In Mesoamerica, the Moche civilization of Peru faces a different aspect of the same global catastrophe. Here, the volcanic winter combines with an unusually strong El Niño weather pattern, creating a devastating 1-2 punch. Waters warm, decimating the fish stocks that form a dietary staple. Heavy flooding destroys sophisticated irrigation systems built over generations. The Moche, known for their remarkable metalwork and ceramics, their complex society and engineering prowess, find themselves suddenly vulnerable. Political leadership falters as it fails to address the crisis. Religious authority is questioned when rituals and sacrifices don't bring back normal weather. Archaeological evidence will later show this period as a breaking point, the beginning of the end for Moche civilization. The darkness of 536 becomes a pivot point in their history when environmental catastrophe undermines cultural foundations. Even in the Arabian Peninsula, where conditions are less severe than in northern regions, the volcanic winter brings change. Paradoxically, the climate shift actually increases rainfall in this normally arid region. Areas that were marginal for agriculture briefly become more productive, altering trade patterns and population movements. This temporary greening of Arabia, combined with the weakening of the Byzantine and Sasanian empires due to famine and plague, creates conditions that will, in coming decades, facilitate the rapid expansion of a new power. Though none can foresee it yet, the volcanic winter of 536 helps set the stage for the rise of Islam and the Arab conquests that will reshape the Mediterranean world. In all these places, people search for explanations. Without modern understanding of volcanology, atmospheric science, or global climate systems, they turn to frameworks that make sense to them: religious, supernatural, moral. Some see divine punishment for collective sins, others blame sorcery or malevolent spirits. Political leaders face accusations of moral failure that has angered the heavens. The human need to find meaning in suffering, to identify causes and solutions, plays out differently across cultures but with the same underlying psychological need. Back in Sicily, on Helena's farm, you remain unaware of these global dimensions. Your world has contracted to the immediate and practical, the daily work of survival, the care of your reunited family, the gradual adjustment to the sun's slow return. Spring planting proceeds with cautious optimism. The strengthening sun, though still veiled some days by lingering haze, provides enough light for crops to grow. The wheat fields turn from brown to green, then begin to show the first hints of gold. Fruit trees blossom and set fruit. Lambs are born, chickens lay more regularly. Life reasserts itself. "The worst is behind us," Helena declares one evening, as the farm workers gather for the evening meal. "The darkness is lifting, the crops grow, we will survive." There's a murmur of agreement, though tempered with caution. Everyone has lost too much to celebrate prematurely. Your father, who has become one of Helena's trusted workers, speaks up. "The plague is still spreading in Syracuse. 3 more villages have reported cases." A hush falls over the gathering. The plague that began in Egypt has indeed continued its inexorable spread, reaching Sicily's eastern coast and moving inland. So far, your farm has been spared, protected by distance and Helena's strict quarantine measures, but the threat looms. "We maintain our precautions," Helena says firmly. "No unnecessary travel. Any supplies we need, Thomas will get from the small market at the crossroads, not the city." No one argues. The discipline that kept you all fed during the darkness will now be directed toward avoiding disease. That night, as your family retires to your small house, your mother brings up a subject that's been weighing on her mind. "We should teach the children to read," she says, as she mends a torn tunic by lamplight. Both of them. Your father looks up from the wooden figure he's carving, a sheep for Marcus, who collects these small tokens of affection. "Read? Is that necessary for farm life?" "It's necessary for life," your mother insists. "My mother taught me, and I want to pass it on, especially now, after—" She doesn't finish the thought, but doesn't need to. After the darkness, after nearly losing everything, knowledge, like the small treasures you all carried through your journey, is something that can't be taken away. Your father considers, then nods. "You're right, but do we have anything to read from, or write on?" It's a practical concern. Books are rare and expensive, parchment similarly so, but your mother has thought of this. "Helena has a copy of the Gospels. I've already asked if we might borrow it sometimes, and for writing we can use wax tablets. I'll speak to Thomas. He knows how to make them." And so, a new element enters your daily routine. In the evenings, after chores are done, your mother teaches you and Marcus the basics of reading and writing. She starts with the Greek alphabet, drawing the letters in the dirt floor of your house when no other material is available. Marcus struggles at first, his young mind more attuned to practical skills than abstract symbols, but he perseveres, motivated partly by your example and partly by the stories your mother promises he'll be able to read for himself someday. "Will I read about heroes?" he asks one night, tracing a wobbly alpha in the dirt. "If you want to," your mother says, "or about animals or distant lands or anything that interests you. That's the magic of reading. It opens doors to places you've never been." Your father watches these lessons with growing interest, occasionally joining in. Though he can't read himself, he recognizes the value of what your mother is teaching. Sometimes he tells stories while you practice, tales from your Byzantine village, legends from the old Roman Empire, even accounts of the darkness that you've all lived through. He's becoming the family's historian, preserving memories through oral tradition while your mother handles written knowledge. Spring advances into early summer. The days grow longer, the sun stronger. The haze that dimmed the world for so long continues to thin, though some days are still darker than they should be. The natural rhythms of life, disrupted for over a year, gradually normalize. Word comes that Emperor Justinian has declared the darkness officially over, attributing its end to divine favour resulting from his religious policies and church-building programs. Few on the farm pay much attention to such pronouncements. Imperial politics seem distant from your daily concerns, though Helena keeps track of such news, aware that decisions in Constantinople eventually affect even remote Sicilian farms. One warm June morning, as you help your father in the wheat fields, you notice a group of travellers on the road that passes near the farm. This isn't unusual in itself. With conditions improving, more people are moving about the countryside, but something about these particular travellers catches your attention. "Father," you say, pointing, "look." He straightens from his work, shading his eyes against the sun, a gesture that would have been unnecessary during the height of the darkness. What is it? The travellers, their clothes. They're from our region. He looks more carefully, and you see recognition dawn on his face. The distinctive style of dress, different from Sicilian fashion, marks the travellers as coming from the same part of the Byzantine Empire as your family. Without discussing it, you both head toward the road. As you get closer, the group resolves into 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, dusty from travel, carrying packs and walking with the weary determination of long-distance travellers. Your father calls out a greeting in your native dialect. The travellers stop, startled to hear their home language so far from home. "You're from the east?" asks the oldest man, eyeing you both with cautious hope. "From a village near Constantinople," your father confirms. "We left during the darkness after the fire." The travellers exchange glances, a silent communication passing between them. "We're from Thrace," the man says. "Left when the crops failed last year. Been working our way west ever since." "How are things back home?" your father asks, the question that's always in the minds of displaced people. The travellers' expressions turn grim. "Bad," says one of the women. "The darkness lifted earlier in the west than the east. Our region lost 2 full growing seasons. Many starved. And now the plague," adds another traveller. "Started in Egypt, spread north. Constantinople was hit hard. They say 1/3 of the city died within months." Your father's face pales. "The whole city?" "The whole empire, from what we hear, moving west along the trade routes. That's why we keep moving, trying to stay ahead of it." The conversation continues, your father inviting the travellers to rest at the farm, Helena approving temporary shelter in one of the outbuildings, provided they show no signs of illness. They're grateful for the hospitality, though they plan to continue westward after a few days' rest. That evening they share more news from the east over a simple meal. The Byzantine Empire struggles with multiple crises, the aftermath of the darkness, the spread of plague, ongoing military campaigns draining resources. Emperor Justinian himself fell ill with the plague, but survived, one of the lucky ones. His ambitious program to reconquer the Western territories continues despite these challenges, stretching imperial resources thin. "Some say it's the end times," one traveller comments, breaking off a piece of bread. "Darkness, pestilence, war, just as the scriptures foretold. People always think they're living at the end of the world," Thomas says dryly. His decades have given him perspective. Yet somehow, life goes on. Not for everyone, the traveller counters. Half my village didn't survive the famine, and the plague takes even the strongest. There's no arguing with this grim reality. Your family exchanges glances, each thinking of your own narrow escape from Constantinople, the chain of fortunate circumstances that led to your survival when so many others perished. The travellers move on after 3 days, continuing their westward journey, fleeing memories of darkness and rumours of plague. Their visit leaves your family contemplative, grateful for the relative security of Helena's farm, yet aware of how precarious that security might be. Should we be moving too? Your mother asks that night after you and Marcus are supposedly asleep. Trying to get further from the plague's path? Where would we go? Your father responds. The travellers said it's spreading everywhere along the trade routes, and we have a good situation here. Work, shelter, food. But if the plague comes, then we might face it anywhere. Better here, with land to grow food, with some distance from the cities. Their worried conversation continues in low tones. You pretend to sleep, but the traveller's news has unsettled you too. Just when the darkness is lifting, when life is beginning to feel stable again, a new threat looms. Marcus, who actually was asleep, stirs beside you. "What's wrong?" he murmurs, attuned to your restlessness. "Nothing," you whisper. "Go back to sleep." But he's perceptive beyond his years, shaped by trauma into heightened awareness. "You're worried about the plague." There's no point denying it. "Yes." He's quiet for a moment. "Will it come here?" "I don't know," you answer honestly. "Maybe, maybe not." "If it does," he says, his voice small in the darkness, "we'll face it together. Like everything else." His simple faith touches you deeply. This child, who has lost so much, still believes in facing whatever comes as a family. His resilience shames your fear. Yes, you agree. Together. July brings the wheat harvest, earlier than the previous year, though still delayed compared to pre-darkness patterns. The yield is better than expected, not a bumper crop by any means, but enough to see the farm through and have surplus to sell. Helena is pleased, rewarding all the workers with a small share of the proceeds. Your family's portion, combined with your parents' careful saving from their wages, represents the first real financial security you've had since leaving your village. It's not wealth by any measure, but it's a buffer against uncertainty, a small hedge against future crises. "We should save most of it," your father says, carefully counting the coins, "but perhaps a small portion for something special. The children have worked hard too." The something special turns out to be a visit from a travelling merchant who stops at the farm with a cart of wares. Most are practical items, tools, cloth, spices, but among them are a few luxuries, small mirrors, simple jewellery, toys. Your parents let you and Marcus each choose one item. Marcus immediately gravitates toward a wooden horse, expertly carved and painted. You take longer to decide, finally selecting a small knife with a bone handle. Practical yet beautiful, something that can be both useful and treasured. As August approaches, bringing real summer heat for the first time in 2 years, news comes that the plague has reached western Sicily. A coastal town less than a day's journey away reports multiple cases, with deaths following quickly. Helena calls a meeting of all farm workers. From now on, no one leaves the farm unless absolutely necessary, she announces. Anyone who must go for supplies will wash thoroughly upon return and sleep separately for 3 days to ensure they show no symptoms. These strict measures meet with approval rather than resistance. Everyone understands the stakes. "How does the disease spread?" someone asks. Helena looks to Thomas, who is the closest thing the farm has to a medical authority, having lived through previous epidemics. Direct contact with the sick is most dangerous, the old man says. Their breath, their blood, the fluids from their sores, but some say it can cling to clothing or goods. Best to avoid anyone who might be infected and anything they've touched. What are the signs? Asks another worker. Fever comes first, then swellings in the neck, armpits, groin, black spots on the skin in some cases. Once these appear, he doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. Everyone knows what follows. That night, your mother insists on a new ritual, washing with vinegar water before entering the house, especially after working with anything that's come from outside the farm. Your father constructs a small washing station near your door, and similar ones appear outside other workers' homes. Helena approves providing vinegar from the farm's stores. Better safe than sorry, she says, a phrase that becomes common around the farm. Despite these precautions, fear grows as reports of the plague's spread continue to reach you. Villages closer and closer to the farm report cases. The weekly market at the crossroads, where Thomas usually purchases supplies, is suspended indefinitely. You begin to feel isolated, the farm becoming an island in a sea of contagion. Yet life must continue. Crops need tending, animals require care, meals must be prepared. The routine of farm work provides structure and purpose, keeping panic at bay. There's comfort in the physical labour, in doing what needs to be done regardless of what threats loom. September brings the grape harvest. The vineyards, like the wheat fields, produce less than in normal years, but more than during the height of the darkness. There's a cautious celebration as the first wine of the season is pressed, a symbol of continuation, of cycles completing despite disruption. During the harvest, you work alongside your father, cutting bunches of purple fruit from the vines and carefully placing them in baskets. The work is sticky and sweet-smelling, physically demanding but satisfying. In our village, your father says as you work, we had a festival after the grape harvest. Everyone would gather in the square. There was music, dancing. I remember, you say, though the memory feels distant, as if from another life. Mother made special bread with honey. She did. He smiles at the recollection. Perhaps she'll make it again here, now that we have flour and a little honey from Helena's bees. The thought of recreating a piece of your old life in this new place warms you. So much was lost, but not everything. Traditions can be carried, adapted, continued. That evening, you mention the harvest festival to your mother. Her eyes light up at the idea of reviving this tradition. I'll speak to Helena, she says. Perhaps the whole farm could celebrate. God knows we all need something to lift our spirits with the plague circling around us. Helena approves the idea, seeing the value in boosting morale. A date is set, the full moon in mid-September, just a week away. Preparations begin, everyone contributing what they can. Some decorate the common area with late summer flowers and coloured cloths. Others prepare special dishes from hoarded ingredients. Thomas reveals an unexpected talent, crafting a simple flute from reed for music. On the night of the festival, the farm's population gathers in the central yard. Lanterns hang from posts, casting a golden glow over the scene. Tables hold food. Simple fare, but more abundant than usual. Your mother's honey bread holds a place of honour, its sweet aroma drawing appreciative comments. For a few hours, the spectre of plague recedes. There is music. Thomas on his reed flute, accompanied by another worker who plays a small drum. Some people dance, awkwardly at first, then with growing abandon. Stories are told, jokes shared, even a few songs sung. Children run and play, their laughter a sound too rarely heard in recent times. You find yourself watching rather than participating, taking in the scene with a strange mixture of emotions, joy at the moment of respite, at seeing your family and friends happy, sadness for all that's been lost, all those who aren't here to share this celebration. And underneath it all, a persistent anxiety about what might still come, the plague still approaching, the future still uncertain. Marcus finds you sitting slightly apart from the festivities. "Why aren't you dancing?" he asks, his face flushed with excitement and the exertion of running games. "Just watching," you say, enjoying seeing everyone happy. He considers this, then sits beside you. "It's good, isn't it? Even with everything that's happened." "Yes," you agree. "It is good. My father used to say we should celebrate when we can because we never know what tomorrow brings." You look at him, surprised. He rarely speaks of his father. That sounds wise. He was. Marcus looks out at the celebration, his expression suddenly older than his years. "I miss him, but I'm glad I have you and your parents now." "We're glad to have you too," you tell him, putting an arm around his shoulders. "You're family now." He leans against you briefly, accepting the comfort, then jumps up. "Come on, they're starting a game. Let's play." You allow him to pull you into the circle of light, into the momentary joy that the farm has created in the midst of uncertain times. Tomorrow the plague may come closer, the future remains clouded, but tonight there is music and food, laughter and connection. Tonight you celebrate survival. As September gives way to October, the weather begins to cool. The sun, though stronger than during the darkness, doesn't provide the warmth of truly normal years. The farm prepares for winter, preserving food, repairing buildings, gathering firewood. These are the rhythms of agricultural life, regardless of plague or politics. News continues to filter in about the wider world. The plague has indeed reached nearby communities, though by some miracle the farm remains untouched. Emperor Justinian's armies continue their campaigns in Italy against the Goths, with varying success. The broader consequences of the darkness are becoming apparent. Population decline in hard-hit areas, political instability, economic disruption. Yet amid these large-scale changes, individual lives adjust and continue. Your family has found a new stability on Helena's farm. You and Marcus progress in your reading lessons, now able to decipher simple texts. Your father has become Helena's right-hand man in managing the farm's operations. Your mother's skills with textiles and food preservation make her equally valuable. The darkness that descended in 536 altered the course of your lives, as it did for millions across the world. The full impact won't be understood for generations, how it weakened empires, shifted population patterns, even influenced religious beliefs. Historians will later point to this period as the beginning of the late antique Little Ice Age, a century-long cooling that reshaped medieval Europe. But for you, on this Sicilian farm in the autumn of 537, such grand historical patterns remain invisible. What matters is the daily work of living, tending crops, caring for animals, maintaining shelter, preserving food. What matters is family, both blood relations and those like Marcus, bound by shared experience and mutual care. What matters is community, the network of support and interdependence that makes survival possible in difficult times. One crisp October evening, as your family sits by the fire in your small house, your father pulls out a surprise, a scroll of parchment purchased secretly during his last trip to the Crossroads market once it reopened. "For your lessons," he tells you and Marcus. "Something new to read. Not just the borrowed Gospels." Your mother unrolls it carefully. It's not a professionally copied text. Those would be far too expensive, but rather a collection of stories written out by someone with reasonable penmanship, tales from Greek and Roman tradition simplified for young readers. "Where did you find this?" your mother asks, clearly delighted. "A former tutor selling his work," your father explains. "He's travelling west, away from the plague, needed money for his journey." The scroll becomes the centerpiece of evening lessons. The stories within, of gods and heroes, of clever tricksters and brave adventurers, transport you beyond the farm, beyond Sicily, beyond the present moment with all its lingering dangers. Marcus particularly loves the tale of Daedalus and Icarus, though the ending troubles him. Why did Icarus fly too close to the sun, he asks one night. Didn't he know it was dangerous? Sometimes people don't believe danger is real until it's too late, your mother explains, or they think the rules don't apply to them. Like people who don't take precautions against the plague, Marcus asks, making a connection that surprises you with its insight. Yes, your mother agrees. Just like that. As October turns to November, the first truly cold weather arrives. Not the unnatural chill of the darkness period, but the normal cold of approaching winter. The farm's rhythm slows, outdoor work diminishing as nature enters its dormant phase. Indoor tasks take precedence, repairing tools, spinning wool, preserving the last of the autumn harvest. The farm's common room becomes a gathering place in the evenings where workers share stories and news while their hands stay busy with practical tasks. It's during one of these evening gatherings that Thomas makes an announcement that catches everyone by surprise. The plague has stopped spreading, he says, looking up from the fishing net he's mending. At least temporarily. The room falls silent, all eyes turning to him. How do you know? Helena asks. Merchant at the crossroads, just came from Syracuse, says new cases have dropped dramatically. The disease burned through the coastal towns quickly, then seemed to lose strength as it moved inland. Cautious hope ripples through the gathering. Could it be true? Has the plague, like the darkness before it, begun to recede? Is it gone for good? Someone asks. Thomas shakes his head. Doubtful. These things often come in waves, but for now it seems to be waning. This news, tentative though it is, lifts spirits throughout the farm. The immediate threat that has hung over you for months seems to be receding. Though no one abandons precautions entirely, the memory of how quickly fortunes can change is too fresh. There's a palpable easing of tension. For your family, this reprieve combines with your growing security on the farm to create a sense of cautious optimism. You've survived the darkness. You've avoided the plague, at least this first wave. Your work provides food and shelter. Your family remains together, expanded to include Marcus. We've been fortunate, your father remarks one evening as your family prepares for bed. So many others. He doesn't finish the thought, but he doesn't need to. You all know how easily your story could have gone differently. Separation in Constantinople could have been permanent. The journey to Sicily could have ended in disaster. Disease could have found you despite precautions. God has been good to us, your mother says simply. And we've been smart, your father adds. Made good choices when it mattered. And had help, you point out, thinking of Demetrios, Helena, all those who offered aid along the way. Your father nods. Yes, all of that. As winter settles over Sicily, a peaceful routine envelops the farm. The days are short, the nights long, but there's comfort in the cycle of seasons returning to normal after the disruption of the darkness. The blue haze that shrouded the sun has mostly dissipated, though occasionally it returns briefly, a reminder of what you all lived through. You continue to grow and learn, no longer quite the child who fled a Byzantine village, not yet the adult you will become. Marcus flourishes under your family's care, his natural resilience finding support and encouragement. Your parents rebuild their lives in this new place, creating a home from displacement, stability from chaos. One cold, clear night in December, about 18 months after the darkness first descended, you step outside to fetch more firewood. Looking up, you see stars shining with brilliant clarity in the winter sky, countless points of light, more visible than they've been since before the darkness. You stand for a moment, arms full of wood, breath clouding in the cold air, simply gazing upward. After so long seeing the heavens dimmed and obscured, their full splendor feels almost overwhelming. Beautiful, isn't it? Your father's voice comes from behind you. He's followed you out, perhaps wondering what was taking so long. Yes, you agree, like they used to be, before. He stands beside you, both of you looking upward. Nature heals, he says quietly. Given time, the darkness lifts. The stars return. Do you think everything will go back to how it was, you ask? Before the darkness? He considers this. No, he says finally. Too much has changed. Too many people lost. Too many places damaged. The world will recover, but it will be different. He puts his arm around your shoulders. Like us. We're not the same as we were in our village, but we're still here, still a family, changed, but continuing. His words resonate with a truth you've felt but couldn't articulate. Nothing will be exactly as it was before. The darkness of 536 has left its mark on the world, on history, on each person who lived through it. But life continues, adapts, finds new paths forward. You gather the firewood closer, feeling its solid weight in your arms, its promise of warmth for your family. Together, you and your father turn back toward the house, where light spills from the doorway, where your mother and Marcus wait, where the small, precious life you've rebuilt awaits. Behind you, above you, the stars continue their ancient patterns, unchanged by the brief dimming of the sun, testifying to the vast cycles of nature that encompass all human experience. Darkness and light, loss and recovery, ending and beginning. Winter passes and spring arrives in Sicily with a vigour that hasn't been seen since before the darkness. Wildflowers carpet the hills in vibrant colours. Trees burst into leaf almost overnight. Birds fill the morning air with song. The sun, now fully visible with only occasional hazy days, warms the earth back to life. It's been nearly 2 years since the strange blue fog first dimmed the sky in March of 536. For those who survived, and many didn't, the world is slowly recovering its natural rhythms, but nothing is quite the same as before. On Helena's farm, spring planting proceeds with cautious optimism. The wheat fields, freshly sown, show promising green shoots. Fruit trees blossom abundantly. Newborn lambs frolic in the pastures. After the long period of darkness and scarcity, this renewal feels almost miraculous. The best spring in 3 years, Helena declares, surveying her domain with satisfaction. As the farm's owner, she's weathered the crisis better than many, but not without significant losses and worries. Now, with normal growing conditions returning, her practical nature allows for measured hope. Your family has come through the winter in good health, a blessing not everyone can claim. The plague that threatened last autumn did indeed recede, though rumours suggest it may return with warmer weather. For now, though, the immediate danger has passed. You've grown noticeably over these months, physically taller, but also more mature in ways that can't be measured. The child who fled a Byzantine village now stands on the cusp of adolescence, shaped by extraordinary experiences. Your parents sometimes look at you with a mixture of pride and sadness, recognizing the childhood partially lost to crisis. Marcus, too, has changed. At nearly 8 years old, he's leaving behind the last traces of early childhood. Under your family's care, he's become more confident, more expressive. His natural affinity for animals has developed into genuine skill. Helena increasingly relies on him to help with the farm's livestock, especially when animals are sick or birthing. One bright April morning, as you help your father repair a section of fence, an unusual sight appears on the road that passes the farm. A small group of official-looking riders, their horses well-groomed, their clothing marked with imperial insignia. Tax collectors, you ask, hand instinctively moving to shade your eyes against the sun, a gesture that would have been unnecessary during the darkness. Your father shakes his head. Too early in the season, and too few. He sets down his tools. Let's see what they want. As you approach the road, one of the riders spots you and directs his horse in your direction. He's a middle-aged man with a neatly trimmed beard, wearing the uniform of an imperial messenger. "Good day," he calls. "Is this the farm of Helena Aurelius?" "It is," your father confirms. "She's in the main house." The messenger nods. "I bring official communications from Syracuse for her and all landowners in the region." He doesn't elaborate further, clearly preferring to deliver his message directly to Helena. Your father sends you to fetch her while he keeps the messenger's company. Helena emerges from the house quickly, her usual practical demeanour tinged with curiosity. It's rare for imperial messengers to visit individual farms, even one as substantial as hers. The lead messenger dismounts and presents Helena with a sealed document by order of the Exarch of Sicily, representing Emperor Justinian, he announces formally. Helena breaks the seal and reads the document, her expression giving nothing away. When she finishes, she looks up at the messenger. "The Emperor asks much," she says. "The Empire needs much," the messenger counters. "After the darkness, after the plague, reconstruction requires resources." Helena nods, though her lips thin slightly. "We will comply, of course." Only after the messengers depart does Helena explain to the gathered farm workers what the document contained. Emperor Justinian has imposed a special tax on all productive lands within the empire, a recovery levy to rebuild after the years of darkness and disease. "How much?" asks Thomas, voicing the question everyone is thinking. "1/5 of this year's harvest," Helena replies, her tone carefully neutral. A murmur runs through the gathered workers. 1/5 is a significant portion, especially after the lean years you've all endured. It will mean tighter rations, less surplus to sell or save. The Emperor's wars continue, Thomas observes. In Italy, in Africa, those armies need feeding. And Constantinople needs rebuilding after the fire, another worker adds. The great church, the Hagia Sophia, is being reconstructed larger than before. "The empire continues," Helena says simply, "and so do we. We've survived worse these past 2 years. No one argues. After facing darkness, famine, fire and plague, an increased tax is a manageable challenge. The resilience developed through multiple crises serves you all now." That evening, as your family sits together in your small house, your father discusses the implications of the new tax with your mother. You and Marcus listen, absorbing another lesson in the complex reality of imperial politics. "It's not just the amount," your father says. "It's the timing. The darkness is barely lifted. People are still recovering, and already Justinian demands more. He's rebuilding an empire," your mother points out. "That requires resources." at the expense of those who can least afford it. Your father shakes his head. The wealthy in Constantinople will barely feel this tax, but for farms like this, for common people everywhere, it means the difference between comfort and bare survival. It's a conversation happening in homes across the empire, the eternal tension between central authority and local needs, between imperial ambition and common welfare. Even as a child, you understand the implications. The darkness may have lifted from the sky, but its shadow remains over the economy, over politics, over daily life. Yet despite this new challenge, spring advances into summer with undeniable beauty. The natural world at least recovers with remarkable speed once normal sunlight returns. Crops grow vigorously in fields that lay stunted just a year ago. Animals that survived the lean times reproduce abundantly. The earth's resilience provides a lesson in recovery. One warm June day, as you help bring the sheep in from pasture, you notice a figure on the road, a lone traveller approaching the farm. There's something familiar about his walk, the way he carries himself. Demetrios, you call out, recognizing your old friend and saviour from Constantinople. He waves, quickening his pace. You haven't seen him since he left you at Helena's farm with your newly reunited parents nearly a year ago. As he gets closer, you can see he looks well, thinner perhaps, but healthy, his face tanned from outdoor work. Your reunion is joyful. Your parents welcome him warmly, Marcus shyly remembers him, and Helena offers hospitality as she would to any friend of her workers. Over a simple meal, Demetrios shares news from Syracuse and beyond. The city is recovering, he tells you. Trade increases now that the sun has returned to normal. Ships come more regularly from the east. And the plague, your father asks, receded over winter, as Thomas predicted. A few new cases with the warm weather, but nothing like before. Some say the worst has passed. And Constantinople? Your mother rarely speaks of the great city where you nearly lost each other, but curiosity overcomes reluctance. Demetrios's expression grows more serious. Rebuilding, but changed. The fire destroyed much, then the plague took perhaps a third of the population. He pauses. The emperor himself fell ill but recovered. Some see it as a sign of divine favour. And his wars? Your father asks. We've just received notice of a special tax. Continue on all fronts, Demetrios confirms. Italy, North Africa, the eastern borders. Justinian is determined to restore the old Roman Empire, whatever the cost. The conversation continues into the evening, covering everything from politics to trade to personal news. Demetrios has found steady work in Syracuse's reviving shipyards. He's even considering marriage, a hopeful sign that people are beginning to plan for futures again, not merely survive from day to day. Before leaving the next morning, Demetrios takes you aside for a private word. You've grown, he observes with a smile, in more ways than one. I had to, you reply simply. He nods, understanding. The darkness changed everyone, some for worse, some for better. He studies your face. You seem well here, your family too. We are, you confirm. The farm has been good for us. Helena is fair. There's enough food now, and Marcus is like a brother. I'm glad, Demetrios says. After all you went through to get here, you deserve some peace. As he prepares to leave, you think about everything this man did for you, taking your place on the ship from Constantinople, guiding you to safety in Syracuse, helping reunite you with your parents. Your life now would not exist without his choices. Thank you, you say suddenly, the words inadequate for what you feel, for everything, for saving us. Demetrios looks embarrassed. I just did what needed doing, same as anyone would. But you both know that's not true. In the darkness and chaos, many thought only of themselves. Demetrios chose differently. After he departs, promising to visit again when he can, life on the farm returns to its rhythm. Summer advances, crops grow, work continues. The special imperial tax remains a concern, but a manageable one amid generally improving conditions. News filters in from travellers and merchants about the wider world beyond Sicily. The Byzantine Empire continues its slow recovery from the double blow of darkness and plague. In some regions, population has decreased by a third or more, changing settlement patterns, labour availability, even military recruitment. Emperor Justinian presses forward with his campaigns to reconquer the western territories of the old Roman Empire. With mixed success, his great general Belisarius secures victories in Italy against the Goths, but complete conquest proves elusive. The resources required for these military efforts strain an empire still recovering from environmental catastrophe. In Constantinople, the rebuilding of the Hagia Sophia continues, a massive church meant to glorify both God and Justinian himself. The emperor seems determined to create monuments that will outlast the darkness, physical symbols of imperial and divine power. But these grand imperial narratives feel distant from daily life on a Sicilian farm. Here, recovery takes more modest forms: healthy crops, well-fed animals, children growing straight and strong, community bonds strengthened through shared survival. By midsummer, it becomes clear that this year's harvest will be the best since before the darkness. The wheat stands tall in the fields, heavy with grain. Fruit trees bend under the weight of their bounty. Vegetable gardens produce abundantly. After years of scarcity, the prospect of plenty brings a collective sense of relief. Helena organises the harvest carefully, mindful of the imperial tax that will claim 1/5 of the yield. Work schedules are arranged, storage spaces prepared, plans made for what to sell and what to keep. The farm functions like a well-oiled machine, everyone understanding their role in the collective efforts. As July turns to August, harvest begins in earnest. It's exhausting work under the hot summer sun, but no one complains. After the blue dimness of the darkness years, normal sunlight still feels like a blessing, even when it beats down relentlessly. You work alongside your father in the wheat fields, using a small sickle to cut the golden stalks. Your mother and other women bind the cut wheat into sheaves. Marcus helps with water distribution, ensuring no one overheats in the summer warmth. "Remember our first harvest here?" your father asks during a brief rest, passing you a water jug. Just after the darkness began lifting, you nod, wiping sweat from your forehead. Everything was still stunted. The wheat barely reached my knees. And now look. He gestures to the field around you where wheat stands waist-high on an adult. Nature recovers, if given the chance. "Do you ever think about going back?" you ask, the question emerging from somewhere deep inside. "To our village, now that things are better?" Your father is quiet for a moment, considering. "Sometimes," he admits, "I miss it. The mountains, the people we knew, the festivals and traditions." He looks across the field to where your mother works, then toward the pasture where Marcus is visible with the water cart. "But our life is here now. You and Marcus are settled. We have work, security." He doesn't mention what you both know, that your Byzantine village might not even exist anymore. Reports suggest some communities were abandoned entirely during the darkness, populations consolidating for survival. Others were decimated by plague. The world you left behind may have disappeared in more ways than just distance. "Besides," your father adds with a small smile, "I've grown fond of Sicilian wine." The harvest continues for weeks, everyone working from dawn to dusk. When the grain is finally all cut, threshed and stored, Helena declares a day of rest and celebration, a harvest festival similar to the one held the previous autumn, but with greater abundance and less underlying anxiety. The festival becomes an expression of collective relief and gratitude. Food is plentiful, wine flows freely, music and dancing continue into the night. Even Helena unbends somewhat from her usual practical demeanour, allowing herself a cup of wine and a rare smile as she watches her farm community celebrate. During the festivities, Thomas approaches your family, a serious expression on his weathered face, despite the celebratory atmosphere. "May I speak with you?" he asks your parents. About the children, your mother and father exchange puzzled glances but nod, moving slightly away from the main celebration. You and Marcus follow, curious about what concerns the old man. "The children are learning to read and write," Thomas begins, "making good progress from what I've seen." "Yes," your mother agrees cautiously. "We practice most evenings." "They should have more formal education," Thomas says directly. "There's a monastery school in the hills about half a day's journey from here. They accept farm children with aptitude, teach them beyond basic literacy." Your parents look surprised. This possibility hasn't been discussed before. "What kind of teaching?" your father asks. "Reading, writing, numbers, some history, religion, enough that they might become more than farm workers someday if they choose." Thomas looks at you and Marcus. Both show intelligence. It would be a shame to waste it. The suggestion hangs in the air, unexpected and consequential. Education beyond basic literacy is rare for common people, especially those from farming backgrounds. It represents opportunity, potential futures beyond manual labour. "We'll consider it," your father says finally. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention." Later, when the celebration has wound down and your family returns to your small house, the topic resurfaces. "What do you think?" your father asks your mother. "About what Thomas suggested?" "Education is valuable," she replies thoughtfully. "More options for their future. But the monastery is far. They'd have to stay there during the week, only come home for rest days." You and Marcus exchange glances, realizing this decision affects you directly, yet is being discussed over your heads, as adult decisions often are. But your mother notices. "What do you two think?" she asks. "It would be hard work, different from the farm, but it could open doors for you later." Marcus looks to you, as he often does when facing something new or uncertain. At not quite 8, he relies on your greater experience and judgment. "I'd like to learn more," you say carefully, "but I wouldn't want to leave the farm completely, or you." "It wouldn't be leaving," your father clarifies, "just staying at the monastery during teaching days. You'd still live here, be part of this family and farm." "Both of us?" Marcus asks, in a small voice. "Together?" "Of course," your mother assures him. "We wouldn't separate you." The decision isn't made that night, but the seed is planted. Education represents a kind of security different from physical survival, knowledge that can't be taken away, skills that travel with the person, options beyond immediate circumstances. After years of focusing solely on survival, the luxury of considering a longer-term future feels significant. As summer transitions to autumn, life on the farm settles into a comfortable pattern. The imperial tax collectors come for their 1/5 share of the harvest, leaving the farm with still adequate stores for the winter ahead. The weather remains mild, with only occasional hazy days to remind you of the darkness period. The decision about the monastery school is made gradually through discussions with Helena, who supports the idea, Thomas, who provides more information, and between yourselves as a family. By October, it's settled. You and Marcus will begin attending when the new teaching cycle starts after the winter. This decision represents more than education. It symbolizes a return to normal planning, to thinking beyond immediate survival, to investing in a future that once again seems reasonably secure. It's a luxury that would have been unimaginable during the height of the darkness. One cool November morning, nearly 3 years after the darkness first descended, you help your father repair the roof of your family's small house before winter weather arrives. From this height, you can see across much of Helena's farm, the harvested fields now lying fallow, the pastures where sheep graze, the orchard with trees now bare of leaves, the cluster of buildings that make up the farm's centre. It looks peaceful, you observe, normal. Your father nods, hammering a wooden peg into place. Nature heals, people rebuild, life continues. He pauses in his work, looking across the landscape. But things change too. The darkness and plague left their mark on the world. Some places abandoned, some knowledge lost, some lives cut short. Do you think people will remember, you ask? In the future, I mean, about the darkness. Some will, he says, those who write histories, those who keep records. He gestures toward you with his hammer, those who learn to read and write, who can pass on what happened. I'll remember, you say with certainty, even without writing it down. Your father smiles slightly. Yes, you will, but your children might not believe it, and their children might think it just a tale, something made up to frighten or entertain. He returns to his work. That's how it goes. What's history to us becomes legend to them, and then perhaps just a story. His words stay with you as you continue working on the roof. The enormity of what you lived through, the sun dimmed for 18 months, crops failing worldwide, famine and plague following, seems impossible to forget. Yet you understand what he means. Time passes. Memories fade. New generations arise who never experienced the darkness firsthand. Perhaps that's why the decision about the monastery school feels important in ways beyond personal opportunity. Learning to read and write means being able to record, to preserve memory, to pass on knowledge. The darkness taught many lessons about nature's power, human resilience, community importance, survival necessities. These seem worth remembering. As winter approaches again, you find yourself reflecting on the journey that brought you here, from a Byzantine village to Constantinople, from burning city to perilous sea, from refugee to established farm worker, from lost child to found family. So much has changed in less than 3 years. The world, too, has changed. The Byzantine Empire continues under Justinian's ambitious leadership, but with reduced population and resources. His dream of reconquering the Western Roman territories proceeds unevenly, victories balanced by setbacks. The Hagia Sophia rises in Constantinople, a monument to imperial and divine power amid a city still recovering from fire and plague. Beyond imperial politics, ordinary life adapts to post-darkness realities. In some regions, abandoned villages mean expanded opportunities for those who survived. In others, labour shortages change economic dynamics between workers and landowners. Trade routes shift, some communities decline while others grow, new power balances emerge. The full impact of the darkness years won't be understood within your lifetime. Historians centuries later will identify this period as a turning point, the beginning of what they'll call the late antique Little Ice Age, a time of cooling that contributed to significant historical changes, including the rise of Islam, the transformation of Europe, the restructuring of ancient trade networks. But for you, on a Sicilian farm in late 538, these grand historical patterns remain invisible. What matters is the daily work of living, tending crops, caring for animals, maintaining shelter, preserving food. What matters is family, both blood relations and those like Marcus, bound by shared experience and mutual care. What matters is community, the network of support and interdependence that makes survival possible in difficult times. December arrives with seasonal chill but normal daylight. The winter solstice approaches, the shortest day of the year, followed by the gradual return of longer daylight. This natural cycle, disrupted during the darkness period, now provides its ancient rhythm and reassurance. On the solstice itself, Helena allows a small celebration, a bonfire in the farm's central yard, mulled wine for the adults, honey cakes as a rare treat. The farm's inhabitants gather around the fire as evening falls, the flames providing warmth and light against the early darkness. Thomas, as the eldest, offers a simple toast to the sun's return, both today and after the great darkness. May we never take its light for granted again. Everyone drinks to that sentiment. After experiencing 18 months of dimmed sunlight, the natural cycle of day and night, summer and winter takes on renewed significance. No one here will ever view an ordinary sunrise as truly ordinary again. As the celebration continues, you notice your parents talking quietly with Helena, their expressions serious despite the festive atmosphere. Later, as your family walks back to your house through the cold night, your father explains the conversation. Helena has offered me a new position, he says. As her farm manager, Thomas is getting older and she needs someone she trusts to help oversee everything. That's wonderful, your mother says, clearly already aware. More responsibility, but also more security for us. You understand the significance immediately. Farm manager is a position of considerable authority, second only to Helena herself in the farm's hierarchy. It represents trust, recognition of your father's skills and judgment, a long-term commitment from both sides. We'll have a larger house, your father continues, near the main building, and a small plot of our own to work separately from the farm's communal fields. When? You ask. After winter, once spring planting begins, he puts his arm around your shoulders as you walk, another new beginning. This news feels like the final piece of a long recovery, from displaced refugees to established community members with recognized value and secure position. The darkness drove you from your home, separated your family, nearly cost all your lives, yet somehow, through a combination of resilience, help from others, and perhaps some good fortune, you've emerged on the other side with a new home, an expanded family, and a promising future. That night, as your family settles into sleep in your small house, soon to be exchanged for a larger one, you find yourself thinking about all that's happened since that morning in March of 536, when you first noticed the blue sun and absence of shadows. So much has been lost, your original home, neighbours and friends, possessions, sense of security, even temporarily each other. Yet something has been gained too. New skills, deeper resilience, stronger family bonds, expanded community, clearer understanding of what truly matters. The darkness changed the world, and it changed you. Not all changes were for the worse. Outside, the winter night is clear and cold, stars shining brilliantly in the dark sky. Inside, your family sleeps peacefully, your mother and father in their bed, Marcus in his small cot near yours, the simple sounds of their breathing, the familiar smells of your home, the secure knowledge of belonging. These form the foundation of recovery after crisis. The world continues to face challenges: political upheaval, economic disruption, disease, conflict. The Byzantine Empire, like all human institutions, will evolve, decline, eventually fall. New powers will rise, new crises emerge, new darkness descend in different forms. But for tonight, in this small house on a Sicilian farm, there is peace. The darkness has lifted. The family is whole. The future, while never certain, holds promise. And as you drift towards sleep, warm in your bed while winter rules outside, you carry forward the most important lesson of the darkness years. Nothing lasts forever. Not empires, not crisis, not darkness, not even light. The world turns, seasons change, civilizations rise and fall. What endures are the connections between people, the knowledge passed down, the resilience built through adversity, the capacity to begin again. In your dreams, you still sometimes see the blue sun hanging in a hazy sky, but now when you wake, golden light streams through your window, normal and miraculous all at once. And with that thought, close your eyes and drift off to sleep, letting the quiet darkness of night embrace you, in the comfort of knowing that morning light will surely come again.